Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Remember to cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. Before we get into today's episode of Box 13, I want to let you know about some exciting news. For those of you who have Netflix, Monk is now available for instant watch over on Netflix, so you can watch any of the 8 seasons of The Defective Detective, and joins a wide variety of other mystery programming available, including Murder, She Wrote, Cannon, and Peter Gunn. Whatever your taste, you can try Netflix out free for 30 days. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net. Now we'll get into today's episode of Box 13, The Clay Pigeon.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of the Star Times. If your advertisement, Adventure Wanted, will go any place, do anything, is bona fide, do this. Call Yorkside 89078 and ask for Dr. Ogden. Make an appointment with him. Then phone Madison 9548 and ask for Mr. Alexander. When you've done these 2 things, you will receive further instructions. I will wait until 3 tomorrow afternoon.
I will wait until 3 tomorrow afternoon for your call. If you want money, I can arrange that. If you want adventure only, this will give it to you. There was no signature, so I assumed the letter was from the mysterious Mr. Alexander, who liked telephones. I was right. It was his nickel and $1 million worth of trouble.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, The Clay Pigeon.
I wonder why you're to make an appointment with a doctor, Mr. Holliday.
I don't know, Suzie, but it's a very interesting letter. I'll tell you what, suppose you dial the first number for me, and we'll get in touch with Dr. Ogden.
Uh-huh. Let's see, that was Brookside 89078.
When you get the number, ask for Dr. Ogden, Suzie.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Hello. Dr. Ogden, please.
This is Dr. Ogden speaking.
Oh, thank you. Just a minute. He's on the line. Answered the phone himself.
Oh, thanks. Hello, Dr. Ogden.
Yes.
I'd like to make an appointment to see you.
Today?
Well, let's say at your convenience.
Well, would tomorrow be all right with you?
Fine. What time?
2 o'clock sharp.
2 o'clock sharp. Fine.
You know the address?
Well, no, you'd better give it to me.
Certainly. 7869 River Lane Terrace.
Oh, just a second. Suzie.
Uh-huh.
Take this down. That was 7869 River Lane Terrace.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, tomorrow at 2 then.
I'll be waiting for you.
Oh, just a second, Doctor.
Yes?
Don't you want to know who I am?
No. I prefer to find it out my way. Goodbye.
What'd he say?
I don't know, but it sounded like I prefer to find it out my way.
Well, what's he mean by that?
I wish I knew.
Let's call that other number, Madison 9548. Want me to get it for you?
Might as well. There's no fun being on first base if there's a chance of scoring. Go ahead. Now, what kind of a doctor prefers to find out the names of his patients his own way?
Hello?
Mr. Alexander?
Yes, who's this?
Just a second. Here he is, the party of the second part.
Oh, okay. Hello, this is Box 13, Mr. Alexander.
Oh, yes. Did you call Dr. Ogden?
Yes, I did. I have an appointment with him for 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Good. Will you keep it?
Well, that all depends on what's going to happen next.
I think you'll like it. Now, can you remember a name in the message?
Well, I think so. I've remembered my own name for a long time.
Good. Here's the name. Listening?
I'm still here.
Matthew Carey. Did you get it?
Matthew Carey, right?
Yes. Now, remember this. The dead shall not stay dead. Did you hear it?
I thought you said the dead shall not stay dead.
That's correct. It's not difficult to remember.
You're right, Mr. Alexander. But now that I have the name Matthew Carey in the message, what do I do with him?
I think you'll know what to do when you see Dr. Ogden. Goodbye.
Hey, Alexander. Hey.
He hung up, huh?
Yeah, he hung up. Suzie, this is either a big rib or it starts out as one of the craziest chases I've ever had.
Well, all you can do is see Dr. Ogden tomorrow at 2.
Yeah, see Dr. Ogden tomorrow at 2. Okay, Suzie, hung for a sheep as well as a lamb. Dr. Ogden will see me tomorrow. So, the next day at 2 o'clock sharp, I pushed a bell button underneath the neat little brass plate that said Dr. Ogden. I waited, and the door clicked and swung open by itself. I stood in a dimly lighted hall. I was getting accustomed to the lights when the door closed behind me. Then I heard...
Please come down the hall.
Where are you?
Second door to your left as you walk this way down the hall away from the front door. Please come in.
Oh, thank you.
How do you do? Please close the door and come in.
Thank you again.
I'm very happy to see that you're prompt. You're the gentleman who called yesterday about 2 o'clock, yes?
Yes, I called about that time.
Good. Please be seated across the table from me. Now, may I ask who sent you to me?
A mutual friend.
May I ask the name of this mutual friend?
Mr. Alexander.
I don't seem to recall that name. Alexander? Alexander.
Yes, Alexander.
Well, no matter.
You are Dr. Ogden.
Yes, why do you ask?
Well, I had no way of recognizing you, Doctor. For all I know, you may be someone else.
I see you're a skeptic.
About what?
Don't you know?
Huh? Oh, yes, of course.
Shall we proceed?
By all means, I'm very anxious to proceed, but first my name is...
Please don't tell me. I have other ways of finding that out.
Oh?
First, we shall dim the lights. I control them from my chair here. You can still see me?
Very dimly.
Your eyes will become accustomed to this light in a moment. Now, there's a drawer on your side of the table. Please open it. You'll find a pad of paper and some pencils in there. Select any pencil and take the pad of paper.
Okay, I've done it.
Close the drawer.
Now what do I do?
Please write your name on one of the slips of paper from the pad, anyone. Underneath your name, write a question. Some problem that is worrying you. I shall attempt to advise you. I hope your skepticism does not interfere with our rapport.
Wait a minute. You mean you're...
What were you going to say?
Let me get this straight. I'm to write my name on a slip of paper.
Yes, and underneath any message, question, problem.
Name. And a message. All right, that's done. Now what?
Fold the slip of paper and place it under the teacup in the center of the table.
There you are, Dr. Ogden.
Good. We shall have to dim the lights a little more. I am trying to establish contact with your mind. I am trying to feel the psychic rapport between us. Think. Think of your name and the message. Think of them. Ah, I see that your name is Matthew Carey. No, no! Who are you? Where did you come from?
Now, wait a minute, Dr. Ogden. Take it easy.
Get out! Get out, you're crazy! You know nothing! Get out!
Calm down a minute, will you? Why should my name make you jump out of your chair like that?
It's not your name. Please, you don't know anything. You can't know.
What's the matter with you, Doctor?
Please get out of here. Go!
Well, all right. But how did you know what name was on that slip of paper under the teacup?
I said get out or I'll have you thrown out!
Well, an invitation like that, what else is there to do? I left Dr. Ogden feeling a little as though I'd struck a match and a house a mile away went up in flames. Who was Matthew Carey? More important at the moment, who was Mr. Alexander? I stepped into a drugstore on the way back to my office. Dialed Madison 9548. No Mr. Alexander. It was a payphone in a market. It seemed that Mr. Alexander had sat patiently waiting for my call to him. Later in my apartment... Hello?
Ah, Mr. Holliday?
Ah, Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Which market are you calling from now?
So you called back, eh?
Yes, I called back. Look, Alexander, if it was your intention to frighten Dr. Ogden out of his next 10 years, you did.
It was my intention, Mr. Holliday.
Wait a minute. You know my name, my telephone number here at my apartment. How come?
I saw you go into Dr. Ogden's. When you came out, I followed you.
Very simple.
Elementary.
Okay, suppose we go to a little higher learning now. Who is Matthew Carey? And why did that name and message frighten Ogden out of his wits?
Are you interested, Mr. Holliday?
I think so, Mr. Alexander. But I'd like to know what the game is.
Will you go on with it?
I'll admit it has its points.
Good. Well, then, you saw the reaction the name and message got from Dr. Ogden.
The electric chair would have been a little less irritating to him.
Then play along. He'll undoubtedly come to see you or try to contact you in some way. See him, talk with him. But whatever he says or does, don't let on what you're doing.
Mr. Alexander, that is the simplest thing in the world for me to do because I haven't the least idea what it is I'm doing.
When he contacts you, be mysterious. Pretend you know something.
What makes you think that I'm that good an actor?
Please do it. You won't be sorry.
I still think it's a rib, a joke.
Oh, it is, Mr. Holliday. But the joke is on our friend Dr. Ogden.
Oh, he's not laughing.
He doesn't have a sense of humor. But will you play along for just a little while longer?
If you'll, tell me one thing.
And what's that?
Where does it all end? And what good is it doing you?
I'm not sure where it will end. As for the good it does me, it will keep me from being killed. Good night.
Now, back to The Clay Pigeon, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Well, Mr. Alexander's last words sat me up straight. I wanted to go to the police, but with what? I'd never seen Mr. Alexander, and as far as I knew, he had a lot of nickels to put in phone slots. He'd never give me a chance to trace a call. So I sat tight and waited. And I didn't have too long to wait because that same night... Yes, who is it?
Dr. Ogden. Mr. Holliday, may I see you?
Oh, Dr. Ogden. Just a second. How did you find me? Psychic rapport?
No, I followed you earlier this afternoon.
Oh. Did you have company?
Company?
Skip it. Is there something on your mind, Dr. Ogden?
Yes. Look here. Why did you come to me this afternoon?
Maybe because of Matthew Carey.
How did you know? Who are you?
You followed me here. You came to my apartment. You ought to know my name.
Yes, Holliday, but that isn't your real name. For heaven's sake, man, will you please talk?
I'd like a little time to think it over.
Then you haven't gone to the police?
No, I haven't. You want me to?
Are you crazy?
How much do you think I know, Dr. Ogden?
Look, Holliday, or whatever your name is, I'm willing to pay you to keep quiet. You must realize, of course, I don't have to pay you a cent.
Oh, of course you don't.
But I want no bad publicity. Be bad for my business. Now, how much?
I told you I want some time to think it over.
How long?
I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk business with you.
Meanwhile, you'll not go to the police?
No, Dr. Ogden, I won't go to the police.
Thank you. Thank you. I assure you, Mr. Holliday, you won't be sorry.
I hope not. Now, good night, Dr. Ogden.
Good night, and you will let me hear from you.
I promise just as soon as I come to a conclusion.
Then, good night.
For a moment, I stood there after Ogden left. I listened to make sure he'd gone. Then I stepped out into the hall and down the stairs into the lobby. Ogden was out of sight. But to make sure, I asked the clerk.
Yes, I saw him, Mr. Holliday. He's gone.
Thanks. There was no one with him.
I didn't see anyone.
Okay, I'm going to step outside for a minute and be right back. Hold any calls that come.
Yes, sir, Mr. Holliday.
There was no one in sight on the sidewalk. The traffic was thin. I was almost sure that Ogden hadn't come alone. Why, I don't know. But I walked a little piece down the street. I was about 50 yards away from my apartment building when...
Holliday.
Huh? Who is it?
Alexander.
Where are you?
In this doorway. I didn't want Ogden to see me. Please come here.
Come on out. Let me take a look at you.
No, I've got to be sure Ogden doesn't see me.
He's gone.
I can't take the chance. Now, please come here. I want to tell you something.
All right. Okay, what have you got to tell me?
This.
Feeling better now, Mr. Holliday?
Oh, how'd I get back in the lobby?
I found you.
How did you happen to be looking for me?
Well, there was a call for you. I stepped out on the pavement and saw someone lying in the doorway.
Yes, and there I was, all tucked away. The original clay pigeon. Dan Holliday.
Shall I call the police?
No, wait a minute.
You've got your wallet.
My watch, my change, my ring.
There's nothing missing?
No, not a thing missing.
Oh, that's funny.
The word you want is peculiar. It's anything but funny anymore. But I would like to know why he slugged me and then left me with all my money and...
Your keys. Have you got all of them?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all here, but look at this one, Charlie. You see anything?
Well, yeah, there's some green stuff on it.
Modeling clay.
Looks like it.
So Mr. Alexander wanted to make an impression of this key to my office.
Why?
Charlie, someday I'm going to catch up with Mr. Alexander and get an answer to a lot of questions. What did Mr. Alexander want in my office? The only way to find that out was to go there. I called Suzie, got her out of bed, and an hour later met her at the office.
Gee, I was scared when you called, Mr. Holliday.
Yeah, but I needed you to take a look around this office. See if anything's missing. You take that side of the room, Suzie. I'll find come over here.
But there's nothing here worth stealing. File cabinets are still locked.
None of them forced?
They don't look like it.
Open them and look inside.
All right.
Not a paper disturbed, not even a pencil out of place. Okay, I'm crazy. I give up. How about the cabinet, Suzie?
Gee, they're just like I left them when I went home. I remember straightening them today because I wanted to find that...
Okay, let's forget it.
You know what I think, Mr. Holliday?
Now, what do you think, Suzie?
I think Mr. Alexander is a lunatic.
Well, tell him to move over. He's getting company. The guy slugs me, makes an impression on my office key, and now what?
You know, Mr. Holliday, I think you ought to find out about that Matthew Carey.
Hey, that's an idea, Suzie. Okay, pack up and go home now. Tomorrow, you and I are going to the morgue of the Star-Times, and we'll see what we shall see. It took Suzie and me the better part of 2 hours to dig through old files. But finally we came up with something. Suzie read a paragraph to me. A paragraph from a Sunday supplement.
The murder of Matthew Carey has never been solved. The only suspect was Marvin Smith, who disappeared mysteriously and has never been located. Carey and Smith were partners in a mind-reading and psychic act, and they...
Hold it, Suzie.
Did that give you a hint?
More. It tells me Dr. Ogden's real name. Marvin Smith. Suzie, Ogden is a mysteriously disappeared suspect.
Sure, but Who is Mr. Alexander?
Go ahead. Read some more.
Okay. Matthew Carey's body was claimed by a brother, Philip Carey. Philip, at his brother's inquest, was dramatic in his denunciation of police and in his vow to track down his brother's killer. Later, he too disappeared. The Matthew Carey case remains another famous unsolved murder. Gee, Dr. Ogden killed Matthew Carey.
Yeah, that's the way it looks. Now, all I've got to figure out is what I'm doing in the act. Why did Philip Carey send me to Dr. Ogden in the first place?
To scare him.
That was only part of it. Obviously, Suzie, Carey, or Mr. Alexander, as I shall fondly remember him, wanted to make Ogden think that someone was on to him. But why pick on me? Later, I called the police and let them know that Dr. Ogden and Marvin Smith were one and the same. Or at least I thought they were. The police went in to see him, but once more he had dropped off the face of the earth, and I looked like a prize sap for giving the tip-off. Then that afternoon...
Want me to answer it, Mr. Holliday?
I bet let me take it, Suzie. Hello?
Holiday?
Yeah. Dr. Ogden, isn't it?
Yes.
Where have you been?
Listen to me. I agreed to your terms.
You what?
I said I agreed to your terms.
Oh. You agree to my terms. Well, that's nice.
I can't talk any longer. I've got to go now. But I agreed to your terms. Goodbye.
Ogden. You know, Suzie, someday I'm going to have that instrument taken out and thrown in the river.
Is something the matter?
Yeah, something's the matter, and it's all with me.
That was Dr. Ogden, huh?
That was Dr. Ogden. And he agrees to my terms.
He agrees to your terms? What terms?
That's the question, Suzie. What terms? Now... Oh, no, not again.
I'll answer it.
No, I brought this on myself. I'll take it. Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Holliday.
Well, Mr. Alexander, how do you do?
How's your head?
How would your head be after a bolero was drummed out on it?
I'm very sorry I had to do that, but it was necessary.
Alexander, if I could only see you just once.
How would you like to do just that tonight?
What do you mean?
Meet me at midnight tonight at the corner of Bay Boulevard and Shore Drive.
It's a pretty lonely neighborhood. What's the idea?
You'd like to see this finished, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Then meet me, but come alone. Absolutely alone, understand?
What if I don't?
I'll be very disappointed in you. Goodbye.
What now, Mr. Holliday?
Good question, Suzie. I've already made the police think I'm a little off by sending them after Ogden. Okay, I'll meet Mr. Alexander tonight. But not before I do a lot of thinking. So I thought, and made up my mind to meet Alexander. But I also made up my mind to get there ahead of time. So I drove to within 3 blocks of Bay Boulevard and Shore Drive, parked, and began to walk quietly. I stayed in the shadows and made sure I wasn't being followed. Then I saw him. A man crouched behind a billboard. Someone had the same idea I had. Get there early and avoid the rush. Well, at last I was going to meet Mr. Alexander, but not face to face. I crept up in back of him and... Easy, Alexander. Take it easy.
Holiday.
Huh? Ogden.
Please. I was going to meet you as you asked. I was just seeing if everything was clear.
Meet me? At Bay Boulevard and Shore Drive?
Yes, that's what you said.
I said? Let that go for a minute. Why are you waiting a block away from the corner?
Why, I told you I just wanted to see if all was clear.
Hold still a minute. Oh, nice gun you've got here, Dr. Ogden. Was I going the way of Matthew Carey?
No, I swear it. Look, see? I brought the money. $5,000, as you said in your letter.
Letter? What letter?
This one.
Give it to me. And stand a little distance from me.
Do you want more? I'll get it. Only please, don't kill me. Please.
Shut up. Was this letter sent to you?
Yes, Why are you asking that?
Now I get it. I think.
Huh?
Look, Ogden, it's still 20 minutes before midnight. You're going to do what I say. Walk to the meeting place. I'll join you at midnight. And you pass over the money. But I'll keep your gun just in case.
What are you talking about?
You'll do as I say. We'll go to the police right now. Mr. Marvin Smith.
Smith?
Oh, that hit home, didn't it? Okay, we wait 10 minutes, then you start toward the meeting place. At midnight, I walked toward the corner. It was very dark, and I could just make out Ogden's silhouette.
Holiday.
Yeah. Now, remember what you're to do. Hand me that package of money.
Yes, here.
Now, as I walk away, I'll fire your gun. I'll drop to the pavement. You stand right there. Get it?
Yes.
Okay. Here goes.
Who is it?
Hello, Smith.
Philip. Philip Carey.
You did just exactly what I thought you'd do, Smith. You killed him. Now I'm going to kill you as you killed Matthew. Don't move. Keep your back toward me. Now take a moment, Smith. Take a moment to think how it must have felt to my brother. But now...
Drop that gun, Carey. Drop it.
You dirty meddler.
Ogden, quick, down, drop.
Oh.
You shot him, Holiday.
Just in the hand.
Oh, killed Matthew. Let me get at him.
The police will take care of him and you. And I'll be glad to see it. Because I don't like being a clay pigeon. Now let's get going, both of you. I've got to explain a few things to my secretary.
So Mr. Alexander, or Philip Carey, took just one piece of stationery and wrote Ogden a blackmail letter on your typewriter. That's why we found nothing missing.
Right, Suzie. One piece of paper wouldn't be missed. But if it hadn't been for the clay on the key, I wouldn't have known he even got in here.
But what was he going to do?
It was a beautiful setup, Suzie. He sent Ogden the blackmail letter. Ogden thought I sent it and was blackmailing him. Ogden was set to kill me, which is just what Alexander or Carey wanted. Okay, so Ogden kills me. Then Alexander steps in, kills Ogden, puts the gun in my dead little hand, and goes away for good.
And then?
And what did the police find? $5,000 in my pocket, a blackmail letter to Ogden written on my stationery, my typewriter. It's an open and shut case. Shut right on my neck.
Aha, but there's one thing wrong.
What?
I could have testified differently. I knew the whole thing. Alexander wouldn't have gotten away with it.
I don't like to keep things from you, Suzie, but I was going to.
What?
Mr. Alexander would have come after you.
Mr. Holliday, let's take the ad out of the Star Times for a while.
Then what will we do for excitement? Good night, Suzie.
Listen in again next week when, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, and this week's original story was written by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager, and the part of Suzie is played by Sylvia Picker. Vern Karstensen is in charge of production. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. Well, this was a mystery. It kept me guessing all the way through to the end. So nicely done. Shows what you can do with a half hour. Somebody, I think it was Kathleen, commented on Facebook that they wanted to see Suzie save the day. I've not heard the last episode, but I think this is about as close as we're going to get. Over on Facebook, Roy comments, "Love Box 13. I believe this is the same Alan Ladd who went on to fame as the immortal Shane." Indeed, you are correct, and we actually did that as an audio extra. There's a old-time radio version of Shane, which we played as one of our very first app and premium side extras, and definitely a very well-beloved film. And then have one more comment for this one from Podcast Alley. Love Adam and Box 13. Well, thank you so much for your kind comments. A reminder, we only have one more week of Box 13 left. So if you'd like to share an insight on a favorite episode, email me. Before we get started, I did want to let you know a little bit about Audible. Fans made their choice last month when they voted for Nero Wolfe. The Nero Wolfe radio programs are great, but Wolfe fans will tell you the novels are even better. The novel, you can get more into depth in the characters and their relationships. Of course, it can sometimes be hard to be able to sit down and read a book. That's one reason why I recommend Audible. I actually got the first Nero Wolfe book in my Audible queue recently and listened to a fantastic reading that really brought the story to life. And Audible makes audiobooks affordable. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try Audible out free for 14 days and get a free audiobook. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. That's audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. Now let's get into today's episode, A Fire for Romano.
Sunday at 8:30, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan, with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's transcribed story, A Fire for Romano.
It started with a little man with deep wrinkles in his forehead and troubles on his mind. Then there was a kid traveling fast in a hot rod. And then there were two women. One who didn't deserve to die, but did. And another one who did deserve to die, but didn't. It was a sunny, healthy Chamber of Commerce Tuesday that I wandered into my boss, the Lyon's office. Got a surprise. No Anthony J. Lyon. Then I remembered he was on vacation. Yeah. This made it look like an even sunnier, healthier Tuesday. See, the beach or the track or... That was before the door opened right behind me, and the aforementioned little man with wrinkles walked in.
Mr. Regan?
Huh?
You are Mr. Regan, the detective?
Yeah, I am.
Please, Mr. Regan, I need your help. Could you help me?
I'm afraid I didn't get your name.
I am Romano. Elio Romano.
Well, sit down, Mr. Romano.
Thank you. What do you say, Mr. Regan?
Very nice fit. What? What's that? Oh, just the chair. Fits pretty good.
The chair fits?
Yeah, my boss is on vacation. I'm just trying out his chair.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Suppose you tell me about your problem. You're needing help, Mr. Romano.
Oh, yes, Mr. Regan, it's true. I do need help. My store, it's my store.
Store.
I have a smaller grocery store. It's on 6th Street. It's my own little store, and I'm very
Romano,
proud.
What about the store?
Oh, such a nice little place where people may buy food. We got everything, my Maria and I. We are the proprietors of this store. We also own it.
Fine. Now, what about...
It's called the Romanos. We have a big new neon sign. My someone is trying to destroy my store.
Now we're making headway. Tell me about the someone.
I don't know this someone. If I should get my hands on them...
Somebody breaks windows?
No. They tried to burn it down. They tried to burn my store.
When?
Last week, Thursday.
Did you call the police?
Yes.
And then what?
Well, they said there was an accident. They said I did this to my own store. Ma questa è una cosa che... Oh, mamma mia.
And you're sure it was no accident?
Mr. Regan, would I destroy the one thing Maria and I have given our lives to make? Would I so much as harm a single little glass window? No, I would not.
Where'd the fire start?
In the back room where the cans are stored.
What time of day?
Night. It was at night. My Maria and I, we sleep above the store. My Maria smelled the smoke, and together we put out the fire before the damage could become great.
That's the only time it happened?
No. No, the day before that, I found a light match in the waste basket. It was just as I was closing for the night. Well, I stopped this one very quick.
2 nights in a row. You're right, Romano. Doesn't look very accidental.
Oh, believe me, Mr. Regan, I would never do this to my store. Never, never.
Okay, Romano. I believe you. Suppose you and I run out there. Take a look. The little man with the wrinkled brow got in the car beside me, and we drove out 6th Street, past Alvarado, past Union. We parked in front of a small grocery store with a big neon sign over the door. The sign said very proudly, Romano's. And my client, Romano, glanced at it, nodded approvingly, and we walked in.
Oh, Elio, you're back safely.
That foolish woman. Of course I'm back safely.
And this is Mr. Regan, the detective.
See. Mr. Regan, my wife, Maria. A very foolish woman.
Elio, twice said is too much.
How do you do, Miss Romano?
Oh, the pig of a husband. If you worry about him and he says so, he call you foolish. If you do not worry about him, he say you don't care.
Maria, Mr. Regan is going to help us. He promised he will help us.
You told him everything, Elio.
Maria, please.
Everything, Elio. You promised me you would tell Mr. Regan everything.
See.
Well?
Suppose you tell me, Mrs. Romano.
See, Maria. Suppose you tell me.
Elio. Mr. Regan, in the first place, you must know that we do not have much money.
See, very little, Mr. Regan.
In the second place, you must know we do not have many friends.
See, very few.
No, we'll work out the money later, Miss Romano. Tell me about the friends now.
Maria, tell me.
We believe certain things, Mr. Regan. We run our business our own way, and no one can tell us otherwise. We believe in being our own boss.
Mm-hmm. That's why you have very few friends?
See, that is why.
Mr. Regan, please, come with me. Right away, I show you where the fires start. Please, come with me.
Romano led me into a small back room behind the counter. There were shelves filled with canned goods and paper cartons. He showed me the waste paper basket near the door. Easy to toss a match in through the window above it that opened onto the alley. There were a few charred pieces of wood here and there, but very little damage had been done. Still, if everything Romano said were true, it didn't look like an accident. It was while he was pointing out the burnt wood that a customer came in the front door. I moved over toward the doorway and listened.
Well, we'll see about that when I tell my neighbors.
It was then that things began to get interesting. I looked out. Plump, smug-looking woman, carrying a heavy purse, her eyes glaring behind rimless glasses.
That's your idea, eh? To force as many people in here as you can? Well, there certainly must be some law against people like you. Please, Mrs. Wilson. I just wanted to make sure, that's all. And I must say I got what I came for.
What was that all about, Mrs. Romano?
Oh, Mr. Regan, you heard.
Maria, what has she said to you?
Quiet, Romano.
Mr. Regan is right, Elio. It was enough.
It didn't sound like nothing, Mrs. Romano. What'd she mean by tell my neighbors?
No, we will not talk of it.
See, we will talk of it. Mr. Regan, this woman, this is Mrs. Wilson. She used to be our best customer. Then she turned on us. She tells all her friends not to come to our store.
Why?
Why? Because who knows why?
Oh, you have started it. Now you will finish, Elio. She does not buy from us because we would not let her tell us how to run our store.
See.
That's all there is to it?
See.
When did this start?
A week ago.
Oh? Same time the fires started.
See, the same... But, Mr. Regan, you don't think...
You hired me to think, Romano. I'll see you later.
Mr. Regan, where you going?
To talk to Mrs. Wilson. If I moved fast, I could find Mrs. Wilson. If I could find her, I could talk to her. She had answers, plenty of them. Plenty more than the Romanos gave her credit for. And then I saw her, a block away, walking fast. I followed. Around the corner, she turned up a walk and disappeared into a 2-story apartment house. I was right behind her. The mailbox out front said 208, and when I got there, the door was just closing. I knocked.
Yes?
Could I talk to you for a minute?
Young man, if you're selling
I'm not
something...
selling anything.
Then what do you want?
Just a couple of questions, Mrs. Wilson, about the Romanos.
Oh, so that's your game, is it? You're trying to tell me...
I'm not trying to tell you anything. we'd just better talk now. For your own good.
You go back and tell those people we don't want them around here. We don't want them in our neighborhood. Is that clear?
That's as good a place to start as any. Now we'll just...
Oh, no, you don't. You're not coming in without a warrant. I knew you were a policeman right away. They called you, those Romanos. Just like them to take advantage of our Constitution. But I know my rights as a citizen.
Lady, I
haven't broken any laws, you understand? It's them that cause all the trouble, them. And we don't want their kind around here. Now, good day.
So I had nothing after all. I got in my car, drove down toward police headquarters. It wasn't that easy. Because behind me, starting at Alvarado, was a yellow Model A Ford. A yellow hot rod, and it wasn't behind me by accident. It stayed there 2 blocks, 10 blocks, 20. And whoever sat behind the wheel didn't care if I knew it. He stayed that way until we reached a block without traffic, and then suddenly the yellow car gunned up in the rearview mirror. And I could see a young kid hunched angrily over the steering wheel, and there wasn't any doubt about what a kid like that had on his mind or what he was going to do. He moved the car up close, next to mine, and yelled something angry kids yell, and suddenly his yellow coupe shot out ahead and cut into me. Like I figured. Tried to run me off the street onto the sidewalk. And now the yellow coupe was just a blur in the distance. I pulled out from the curb, eased into gear, and took my time driving to the police station. The police told me to check with the arson squad. The arson squad told me to check with the sergeant. And to make a rotten day just that much rottener, the sergeant turned out to be a guy I knew, named Bowles.
All right, what do you want, Regan?
Transferred from homicide, Bowles?
I don't need any of your lip today, Regan. I'm busy. What do you want?
You handle the Romano investigation?
Romano? Who's that?
Just a poor guy who happens to own a grocery store.
Romano. Yeah, I checked it out last week.
Find anything?
Sure. Scared little guy ought to watch where he tosses his matches.
That's all you could find.
When I want your advice, I'll ask for it.
Give, Bowles. I'm busy today myself.
Times must be tough, Regan? You're taking a fee from a poor...
Answer me, Bowles.
Okay. The guy had a fire. Know what caused it? Matches. Know the total damage? $10. Now, Regan, if you think we got enough men to stake out a 2 big
Ever hear of
stores...
putting out a fire before it starts, Bowles? You wouldn't have heard that.
I told you we haven't got enough men, Regan. Sure, we'd like to prevent it. Okay. But you need men, Regan. We haven't got them.
Okay, Bowles. What have you got?
There's no evidence of outside work.
Meaning what?
No evidence that anybody else started it, Regan.
Spell it out, Bowles.
Sure, I'll spell it out. Maybe somebody did start the fire on purpose. You know who'd gain by that, Regan? No, don't guess. Let me tell you. A character named Romano.
Bowles, if you think...
I didn't set it up, Regan. Somebody else did. For your information, this client of yours, Romano, has his grocery store well covered. You know what they call it, Regan? Fire insurance. Lots of fire insurance.
And that's what I got from Sergeant Bowles. I left the station, drove down to a chop house on 3rd Street, had myself a big dinner, and tried to think. Only it wasn't that easy. Ideas would fit together during the salad and go to pieces during the steak. By the time I got to dessert, it was anybody's guess. I paid the blonde waitress and drove out 6th Street, watching the streetlights go on and hoping one of them would shed some light on the problem. But when I got past Alvarado, I didn't have time to think. I stepped on the gas, drove faster, into streets becoming crowded, alive, into confusion and fire engines, into shouts and smoke. A man in a fire helmet directed me over to the side of the road, and I parked and got out and walked into the excitement and confusion and heat, and into a sweaty, curious, open-collared, open-mouthed, hot-eyed, staring mob. And there were shouts all around me. Hey, Joe. Hey, Edna. Hey, Pete. Come take a look. Romano's. The grocery store. It's burning down.
This is CBS, and you are listening to tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator, entitled A Fire for Romano.
A little man named Romano had hired me to find out who tried to burn down his grocery store, and I'd met an irate customer, an overworked cop, and a kid in a hot rod. Now I was back on 6th Street, back at Romano's little store, and there was a mob of excitement-hungry people yelling and cheering and shouting, while flames licked up the store walls and around the big new neon sign Romano had proudly shown me. And I was moving into the mob, trying to get closer, when a big burly man covered with soot and sweat shoved me aside.
Here, stand back with him, please, mister.
Have you seen the owner?
Too many people to see anything, mister. Out of my way.
The big fireman moved on, and I followed him, letting him clear a path through the spectators, and up ahead, I could see another big man. This one I knew.
Stand back there. Oh, Regan.
Rand, have you seen Romano, the owner?
What's he look like?
A little guy, dark hair,
Stop
mustache.
control, Regan. I haven't seen anybody. Better stand back. That wall's going soon.
Romano and his wife live in there.
Sorry, Regan. Too many people. My men can't get equipment.
Never mind.
Regan, come back here.
Fire Chief Rand's shouts were lost in the crowd behind me as I moved and shoved and pushed my way around to the side of the burning grocery store. Somewhere in there was my client, Romano, and his wife, Maria. And then, stumbling out through the smoke, came a fireman. And he was dragging a man, a little man, coughing, spitting, screaming. It was Romano.
Maria. Easy. Here, this is the man you were looking for, mister.
Maria, let me go, please. Let me go.
Romano, it's me, Regan.
Let me go in the name of God. Please let me go, Maria. I must get to my Maria.
You take him, mister. I'll go back for her.
Right, I got him.
Regan. Mr. Regan, where is she? They left my Maria.
Take it easy, Romano. They'll get Maria.
They must have saved her. I'm going to get to Maria. I'm going to get...
I pulled the little man away from the smoke and heat and people, and stretched him out on the pavement. In a few minutes, his breathing became regular and the coughing stopped, and he slept. And 10 minutes after that, the big fireman came out with Maria and placed her on the pavement beside her husband. Only Maria wasn't coughing or breathing. She was dead. The ambulance took Maria and Romano away. The fire hissed steam where the firemen's hoses poured gallons of water. And soon even the crowd had lost interest. And only the hissing steam and smoke filled the cavity that had been Romano's grocery store. Fire Chief Rand came over to me.
Did you find him, Regan, that man you were looking for?
Yeah, Rand. I found him.
He okay?
Yeah, he'll be all right. Not his wife.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Regan. We did the best we could.
I know. Rand, what started it?
I was just checking. So far, nothing conclusive.
You think it was an accident?
No. Went too fast. This one was planned, Regan.
Pyromaniac, huh?
I'm not too sure. The nuts usually stick around. Watch it. They get their kicks that way.
Check the crowds?
We always check the crowd. Nothing certain yet.
Okay, Rand. Thanks.
Regan, when you see Romano, tell him we did our best.
I left Rand examining the charred scraps of what was left of Romano's grocery store. I walked down the street, thinking, putting the twos with other twos and trying to make fours. And then I saw something up ahead, and I forgot about the twos and fours and moved faster. It was a yellow Model A Ford parked 3 blocks from the scene of the fire, sitting quiet, docile, far from the nearest streetlight. I got to it, started to look in. It was the car that had tried to run me off the street. It was...
Get away from there, mister.
I turned, saw a kid. The kid who'd driven the car into me. In his right hand, a revolver.
Come on, get away from it.
You like guns.
They get me things. Come on.
You also like matches.
Shut up!
You also like killing people. Right! He blinked when I said killing, and I dove across the sidewalk at his knees, and we went down together, rolling on the pavement and digging for the gun. And it was anybody's weapon until I felt the cold steel of it pressing between us. Saw the barrel moving up under my chin. Heard the report. Kid was gone. I was holding a sticky, damp spot above my left ear, and when I pulled my hand away, it too was sticky and damp. I got up, rocked unsteadily on my feet, stumbled down to my car. I reached for the ignition, pushed the starter, and decided to wait. Voices and faces, and voices and lights, and a big blank wall to stare at. I waited, not being sure, and then I opened my eyes, and the blank wall was the ceiling, and the face was Sergeant Bowles. Who said it was just a scratch?
Lay down.
What's going on around here?
Said lay down. You want to hurt something or something?
Bowles, your humor stinks. Where are we?
Georgia Street Receiving.
Huh?
Only why Rand had bothered...
Rand brought me here.
He found you in your car. You were out. Way out.
Romano. Is he okay?
Yeah, he's okay.
His wife, Maria. Does Romano know?
Yeah, he knows.
Bowles.
Yeah?
You still figure Romano burned his own store down?
Shut up.
Like you said, Bowles, who would gain but Romano? Who, Bowles, who?
Okay, so I was wrong, okay? We did our best.
After the crime. What did you do before it happened, Bowles?
Slow down, Regan. You're racing your motor. Besides, suppose you answer a couple of questions.
Okay. Just ask me. Bowles asked me, and I told him. And he folded his notebook and he walked out. I got up, checked my legs and the bandage over my left ear, glanced down the hospital corridor, and walked out. 30 minutes later, the cab let me off where I'd last seen that yellow coupe, and I began to check garages. And the first one I checked was behind the apartment building where Mrs. Wilson lived. And I got nothing. 30 minutes after that, I'd covered her side of the block and was on the last apartment across the street. 4 garages, side by side. First, Chevy. Second, Dodge. Third, Ford. Not a new one. It was a coupe like the yellow one I was looking for, only this was black. Shiny black. Shiny black. That was worth something. I moved into the dark garage and looked closer at that Model A and reached out and touched the shininess and brought my finger back fast. Sticky. Wet. Newly painted.
What are you doing back here?
Short, fat, with a flashlight beam in my eyes.
Come on, speak up. What's your business?
Turn off your light.
Not a chance, mister. I'm on
I said turn it off.
Hey!
Whose car is this?
None of your business.
I said whose car?
This is my property, mister. You...
Talk!
It ain't my place to give out information on my tenants.
Oh, the owner lives in your apartment?
Well,
Does he?
Well, I rent that garage, mister. $5 a month.
But the guy who owns the car doesn't live here?
It ain't no guy, mister. Woman pays the bill.
A woman? A plump woman, wears rimless glasses.
Yeah.
Her name's Wilson. Mrs. Wilson.
Hey, that's...
Thanks.
Hey, you ain't got no right to ask me questions.
I moved around the building, across the street, double time. Double time up the stairs, up to the place I'd been earlier in the afternoon. It was late now, very late. But whether she liked it or not, Mrs. Wilson was getting a caller. I leaned on the buzzer, stayed on it. And midnight or not, Mrs. Wilson was going to answer if it took me all...
What's the meaning of this? The very idea... Oh, it's you. Well, see here.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
I won't have this, you. I'm calling the manager. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
You policemen have no right to disturb peace-loving citizens.
I'm not the police, Mrs. Wilson.
You're not the police? Well, in that case,
Not this time.
Get out of my house, do you hear? Get out of
Shut
my...
up.
What do you want?
Your son. If he is your son.
You're plain crazy. My son is out of town.
Really?
He's been gone since yesterday. He's visiting his aunt.
That right.
He left on the train for Santa Barbara. That's where my sister lives. Tommy left yesterday morning.
Tell me about Tommy.
He's a good boy. There's nothing he's done wrong. What right have you got?
What right have you got covering up a murder?
Murder?
Sure, murder, Mrs. Wilson. When your kid set fire to Romano's store, somebody was killed. The law can call that manslaughter, Mrs. Wilson, but you and I know it's murder.
You're lying. You're making it
Why,
up.
Mrs. Wilson? That's all I want to know. Why? Why did you knowingly let your kid set fire to that store? What kind of a distorted brain...
You shut up. What those people got, they deserved. We don't want their kind in this neighborhood. We've got our rights.
Who's we?
Citizens. Real American citizens.
Oh, Romano's not, is that it?
There's no place here
I think
for
I'll
such...
just look around, Mrs. Wilson.
Where are you going?
Look around. Something brought this business to a boil.
You stay out of there!
Oh, I wasn't going in. But since you made a point of it... Kitchen.
You get out of here.
Now, why would you care if I looked in your kitchen, Mrs. Wilson? Interesting. Very interesting.
You've got no right to come in
Coffee,
here and...
sugar, soap.
Oh,
Lots of it. Let's see. Say about 24 cans of coffee. A couple of cases of soap. And there's a sugar there.
I paid for it. It's my right to buy what I want. Romano can't tell me
so
what
that's
I'm
it.
supposed...
Romano tried to tell you how much you could buy.
No dirty, filthy foreigner is going to tell me
Say,
what I
that's
can...
right. You're an American. A real patriotic American.
Right.
The Constitution says you've got a right to buy as much as you want any time you want. You've got your rights. Remember, you're telling me that.
So I'll thank you to keep your nose
Your
out
kind
of my
belongs
business.
behind bars, Mrs. Wilson.
What?
Your kind can't eat off the same table with the Romanos. Your kind belongs out back in a pig pen, where you can wallow in your soap and coffee and sugar and greed.
How dare you?
Get back with the pigs, Mrs. Wilson. Somebody left a loophole in the Constitution.
Why?
Stand right where you are, mister.
Well, that makes it complete.
Oh, Tommy. Oh, my Tommy.
I thought I stopped you once, mister.
Oh, he said such horrible things, Tommy. He said such terrible things.
I won't be saying much when I get through with him.
When you get through with what?
Oh.
Haven't you killed enough for one night?
Killed?
Mrs. Romano's dead. Dead from the smoke and flames and hate your mother cooked up.
Oh, no. I wasn't going to kill her.
Sure, just a little fire. Burn them out of the neighborhood. Your mother's idea.
Oh, Tommy, don't let him talk to me that
Sure,
way.
they always start that way. Just a little hate. But it builds, doesn't it, kid? Starts with a fist, ends up with guns, lots of them.
Tommy.
I didn't mean...
Go on, shoot, kid. Make the neighborhood safe for Americans. Your mother's kind of Americans. Kind that breeds hate and greed and gets fat doing it.
Tommy, make him stop.
Shoot, kid. Go ahead, prove she's right. That you can kill because you're special like she is.
Tommy!
Give me that gun. The gun. Gun. Thanks. There must be something in the Constitution that fits you, Mrs. Wilson. And there was. Murder, arson, whatever you want to call the crimes of Mrs. Wilson. You might say she was fighting for a fifth freedom. The freedom of grab. And she won. The right to spend the next few years grabbing the bars of her own private cell. The next morning, I checked in down at the office of my boss, Anthony J. Lyon. Empty. Anthony J. on vacation. Way up in the mountains, breathing fresh air, living the hard, rugged life. Fishing, hunting, getting next to nature. And doing good. Thought about that as I sat down in his big swivel chair. Anthony J. Lyon, Detective Bureau. Regan speaking.
I have a long-distance call for Mr. Jeffrey Regan from Mr. Lyon in Mammoth Lakes, California.
Okay, I'm Regan.
The call is collect. Will you accept the charges?
What else? Okay, operator.
Jeffrey! Is that you, Jeffrey?
Lyon, how's the fishing?
What's that? Oh, terrible connection. I can't hear a thing.
I said, how's the fishing?
Fishing? Oh, yes. Fine. Wonderful. Spend every minute out on the lake. Open air. Exercise. Just a minute, Jeffrey. Certainly I'm in for $5. Deal, Charlie. Yes, really roughing it, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yes, generally fine weather. Just what I needed. All this outdoor exercise. Pardon me, Jeffrey. These fishermen keep asking advice. I've got aces over queens. Sorry, gentlemen. My part again. That's why I called you, Jeffrey.
Fish biting that good, huh?
Biting? I've never seen so many suckers, fish in my life. You practically have to fight them off. Jeffrey, this exercise is doing me so much good.
Yeah, Lion.
Do you mind if I stay another week?
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written tonight by William Frug, produced and directed by Sterling Tracy, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard transcribed each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking, and inviting you to be with us again next Sunday at 8:30 for more suspense and mystery and adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This was a very gritty, dramatic performance from Frank Graham. Very different in tenor from the other episodes of Jeff Regan, either under Webb or under Frank Graham. This almost has the feel of something that may have been written for another detective show but never used. And the Lion's Vacation just tapped onto the show as an explanation. But overall, a very well done, solid. This is probably just in terms of dramatic power, the best we hear in this series. It's right up there with most episodes of Philip Marlowe. So, all right, well, we'll be back tomorrow with Let George Do It. For now, send your comments into box13 at greatdetectives.net. Before we get started, I do ever so briefly want to let you know about Netflix. Netflix has a great selection of movies available both as DVDs and as instant watch. If you want to watch all mysteries, great selection with everything from Murder My Sweet to the latest episodes of Monk. Comedies, they have Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Bob Hope, and a wide variety of others. With Netflix, you get to control your entertainment choices, so you can pick from a wide variety. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net. But let's go ahead and we'll get into today's episode of Let George Do It. The host of Casa Diablo.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invite you to Let George Do It. The host of Casa Diablo, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If you got a man-sized job in your hands and need confidential help, call on me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, 15 years ago, a grand jury launched an investigation into municipal graft and corruption. It fizzled out because the star witness fled to Mexico. Now this man is willing to return, willing to testify against persons who are still powerful figures in high places. Obviously, the assignment to bring him back requires not only the utmost discretion, but willingness to face all opposition and even violence. Please arrange to see me as quickly as possible. Yours truly, Felix Soper.
Tell me, Mr. Loper, what makes this Earl Bixby so eager to come back after all this time?
You mean aside from the $10,000 he's asking for in this letter?
Well, obviously somebody paid for Bixby's 15-year siesta in sunny Mexico. They're going to extend themselves more than a little to see that he doesn't get back here.
Well, the money won't do him much good unless he has pockets in his shroud.
And our friend must realize that.
Well, maybe I'm reading too much between the lines. I think he's good and fed up with his self-imposed exile. He can't stand it any longer.
Slightly lamb-happy, in other words.
Yes, precisely, Valentine. Anyway, whatever the reasons for Bixby's change of heart, it suits our purpose to a T.
Our purpose?
The Citizens Committee, Miss Brooks. It's supposed to act as the city's watchdog. Well, it's been doing an awful lot of barking of late, but no biting where it can do the most good.
The village of San Salvo, huh? No wonder nobody's ever found him. So isn't it somewhere near Mount Aldez?
Right on the top of it. Bixby's got a big, sprawling place he calls Casa Diablo, just outside of San Sabo.
I see.
The important thing is to get him back here all in one piece, ready and willing to testify. How soon can you get started, Valentine?
Well, as soon as Miss Brooks can pick up a Spanish dictionary. After all, a girl should learn how to say no to some of those Mexican perfume vendors.
Just the perfume vendors, darling?
The others I'll take care of. Muy pronto. Anything else you do besides sell perfume and drive that bus out there, Emilio?
Si, senor. Sometimes I spend the whole day wondering about Americanos.
Oh?
You are not all in the head sometimes.
A remark like that is muy malo for the good neighbor policy.
Senorita, I cannot help it. Look, all year I drive almost empty the bus way up to San Sabo, where there is nothing to see.
Yeah?
Now, in the worst season, 2 earthquakes last week, 5 passengers, all Americanos. ¿Por qué?
Oh, I know that one. That means why.
Okay, you two linguists. Now listen, Emilio. How long does your bus stop here at the inn?
Senor Emilio's tour is renowned for comfort, for speed, and for politeness. We wait till all passengers complete their meal.
Okay. I'll see if I can rustle up some cigarettes.
Si, senor. Now, senorita, here is a bottle of Slavo classic.
Too bad you had to bring her along, Valentine.
Huh? What's that remark supposed to mean?
Well, you see, it's like this. You and me are going to have to tangle, Valentine, before we leave San Sabo.
Oh.
We are? Sure. I hate to see beautiful dames get hurt. My friends tell me I'm soft-hearted. What you got to tell me?
That's easy. Just stay out of my way. Or your friends may be talking about you in the past tense.
Tough guy. Huh? Sort of make it real interesting. I got to see that Bixby stays where he is. Even if a bad accident has to happen to him.
He's got accident insurance. That's me.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't want us to be in the dark about how we stand. Name's McLean. See, I wonder if your girl's getting lonesome over there with Emilio. Maybe I ought to go find out, huh?
You're gonna let him get away with that.
What's that? Oh.
I'm Christine Craig.
Yeah, I heard Emilio talking to you on the bus. Well, it's about time us turistas got a little chump here.
Oh, I usually mind my own business. Guys like that Wolf McLean over there always gives me the creep. Should be used to the type by now.
Show business?
Nightclubs and what have you.
Yeah. Incidentally, what's bringing you to San Sabo?
Oh, why talk about me? Now, there's McLean, for instance. Now, he don't care who knows he's got a gun strapped onto him. But you're different. You can hardly tell you're wearing a shoulder holster.
Oh, it's really nothing. I just try to be neat. But tell me something, Christy. Do you happen to know a man named Bixby?
I'll see you out in the bus, Valentine. And you better warn your girl about McLean.
Who's going to warn him about her?
Well, I see that Emilio's passengers have finally decided to become one big happy family.
Oh, Red Friend, on the bus I got the impression that you're a newspaper man.
Allied syndicate.
Well, how about this story?
Yes?
5 people in a broken-down bus, headed for a crummy little village miles from nowhere. To quote Emilio, ¿por qué?
Well, maybe they're here to see what happens if there's another earthquake in these parts.
Which you don't believe, of course, Red Friend.
It's obvious what McLean is. You can expect anything from him. And this could hardly be a pleasure jaunt for Christy, the Corrine. That leaves you and Miss Brooks. I was wondering about you.
Don't forget yourself, Redford. Or as a reporter, do you consider yourself on the outside looking in?
Something like that. Just waiting for things to happen. And I'm not often disappointed. Come on, I think we have time for a last cup of coffee.
Sure, thanks.
Really, Mrs. McLean, you shouldn't have bought me that perfume. It's much too, well, extravagant.
Don't try to thank me, honey. My friends tell me I'm the soul of generosity.
Yes, but girls just don't go around letting men buy them expensive perfume.
All right, let's put it this way, sweetheart. On the way back, suppose you make the trip with me.
Well, yes, but girls just don't go someplace with one man and come back with another.
Maybe Valentine won't be coming back.
What?
You know, we might like it so well for his health up in San Sabo, we might decide to stay.
Oh.
Come on, let's not talk about him. Where'd you get those big blue eyes, anyway?
Oh, they just came with my head.
What? Oh, no kidding. You got something, babe. Hey, look, you ain't married to that guy, are you?
No.
Well, how come a sweet package like you is still going around loose?
You know, if you don't let go of my hand, I don't see how a girl can be expected to slam a gorilla like you in the nose.
Well, no dame kids me along.
Better give the man back his perfume, Brooksie.
George.
You don't stay out of this, Valentine, you won't even get up to San Sabo.
You should never wind up like that.
Now I know what I got to do with you, Valentine. Bixby or no Bixby.
The Emilio Tour again presents itself, a journey of beauty and peace through all Mexico. Now do me the honor to... Madre mia, what happened?
A slight detour, Emilio. Now, Mr. McLean will get up off the floor. I think we can proceed. You sleeping, Brooksie?
Who could sleep in this rattle trap?
Now please to observe that we approach the top of Mount Old Days. You will please to extinguish the light over your seat, Senor McLean.
Shut up. Head of your driver.
Now be reasonable, McLean. These roads are dangerous up here. The light makes it difficult for Emilio to drive.
Yeah, you don't mind the dog, Redfern. That's why you made sure you sit down next to that blonde.
I've had enough of you on this trip. One more word.
Okay, sister, get back in your seat and slip down your lip.
Hey, George, what kind of a game are we playing here?
Game? Well, that's one way of putting it.
We want Bixby back. McLean doesn't. What do Redfern and Christie want?
I think we'll find that out when they go into action at the Casa Diablo.
Senores, another earthquake.
Hold tight. It's okay now.
What are you doing, Emilio?
We go back, senorita. Too dangerous up here.
We can't go back now.
Oh, we gotta go on.
Shut up. All here. Leave this to me.
But, Senor McLean, feel how the mountain is shaking. Soon we all go down over the side.
Start up this bus, or you get a slug between your eyes.
George, please. The Emilio Tour is always willing to please, Senor.
Don't make me lose my temper. My friends tell me it's the one bad habit I got. Get going.
The last stop, senores. Bridge Diablo. Quick, hurry, please. Emilio take bus to San Sabo.
Nobody's leaving this bus but me.
Why do you want to go to Casa Diablo? Crazy Americano live there for 15 years. Earth shake again and little bridge fall. Everybody go down in canyon.
McLean, put that gun away. You can't stop us from going to see Bixby.
This guy's driving all of you to San Sabo. Try to get out, there'll be some dead people out in the road.
All right, Redfern, pick up his gun. Good shot, Valentine. Brooksie, see if you can make some kind of bandage for his wrist.
My boss, my poor automobile.
All right, now. Looks like all of us plan to cross this bridge to Casa Diablo. Now, maybe if we had a showdown, some of us would think better of the idea. You heard what Emilio said would happen to the bridge if there was another shake?
Bixby ain't coming back to the States.
And I'm here to see that he does get back. All right, that accounts for me and McLean. What about you, Christine?
I want him back, too. When he ducked out on that investigation, he let my father take the rap for the ones who really had it coming to him. My old man's still in jail.
That leaves just me, doesn't it? I remember a little about that investigation myself. In fact, that's why I'm here. As a reporter, I want to get the facts from Bixby firsthand. Okay. Now everybody knows where he stands. Open the door, Emilio.
George, this isn't a bridge. It's a tightrope. Must be swing 20 feet in each direction.
Well, that's still from the last quake. Just hold on to me. Almost across. Say, I think I see someone with a light coming down the hill from the house.
Oh.
Welcome to Casa Diablo, ladies and gentlemen.
Bixby.
Who else but a crazy Americana would bury himself in a place like this? Now, let's see. Are we all here?
How many did you expect?
All those who were invited, of course. Now, who would this be?
Take that flashlight out of my face. You made a deal with some people, Bixby. $10,000 and you stayed. Now I got the dough.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. This young lady.
Christy Craig. You know why I'm here. With $10,000.
To be sure, your father. Now, Redfern, I hope you have the $10,000 for the exclusive story of Earl Bixby, the Black Sheep.
I have.
Somehow we seem to have unexpected guests.
The young lady and I together, representing the Citizens Committee, with another $10,000. What are you trying to pull, Bixby? You can't sell out 4 different ways at the same time. Nothing get away with it.
I have a way. And get away with it, too.
Just look at the bridge. That won't be another quake.
Yeah, but in the morning, that's what everybody will think. Which will serve my purpose.
Hey, what are you up to, Bixby?
I did.
You see, I was all prepared for you. I timed the explosion of the bridge from the house.
Being here alone for 15 years must have dulled your perspective, Bixby. It's 5-1 against you doing anything.
Knowing that, you can afford to satisfy your curiosity. As I said before, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Casa Diablo.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Nearly everybody knows that lubrication of a sewing machine, a lawnmower, or a bicycle is no major problem. And evidently many thousands of motorists know that lubrication of today's automobile engines is solved best by compounded RPM motor oil. For RPM is first choice in the West, and for good reasons. First of all, RPM keeps your car's engine clean, prevents damaging carbon particles from ever touching those finely polished interior engine parts. A special compound in RPM literally surrounds carbon particles and other troublemakers during the oil service period and flushes them out when you have the crankcase drained. RPM also fights off corrosion, rust-proofs your car's engine as it lubricates. Another thing, RPM sticks to hot spots left bare and exposed to wear by ordinary motor oils. So for protection, for trust, switch to RPM motor oil, first choice in the West. Get RPM at standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. 15 years ago, one Earl Bixby, big-time political grafter, took it on the lam rather than testify in a grand jury investigation. After these many years, he's willing to return and tell all for a price. You show up in his Mexican hideaway with the $10,000, but 3 other characters appear with the same amount, each with a different reason. Being like George Valentine, you call for a showdown, and fast.
All right, Bixby, you know why I'm here. What are you going to do?
Gonna have a drink?
You can do that some other time. I've got the $10,000, see? Well, look at it.
Now, please, Miss Craig, I'm quite aware that you have the money.
You've taken 15 years out of my father's life. Now, you can't do anything about it right now. But you can come back and clear his name. And if you don't, I swear I'll kill you. Take it easy, Christine.
Oh, Valentine, it's too bad you had to take a shot at our friend McLean, so Redfern has to bind his wounds now and put him to bed. We might have discussed all this in detail before morning. Now, I think I'll have that drink.
Just be ready in the morning. I'm going to bed.
You didn't by any chance arrange for the earthquakes, too, Bixby?
Oh, that was merely a stroke of luck, and I took advantage of it.
Just consider the location of Casa Diablo.
Please, no geography lessons this time of night.
Small and insecure suspension bridge connects this rocky perch with San Sabo. In the morning, when they see it's gone, I can hear the natives saying, Madre mia, the earthquake, crazy Americano, he all alone now.
Amelia, the bus driver, knows you've had company.
Does he know all of you didn't go down with the bridge?
Oh, so that's it. And presto, $40,000 to invest in your wine cellar.
George, I think our host is loco en la cabeza. You know, crazy in the head. I looked it up.
Yeah, Bixby, I think we're going to tie you up until that conference in the morning.
Oh, come now, Valentine. Such a groveling admission of weakness. After all, Redfern has McLean's gun, and I'm sure that you have one.
Just the same, I think.
Would you believe it, Valentine?
What, Redfern?
McLean, the tough guy who wouldn't hesitate to make cold meat out of anyone else, is afraid of the sight of blood. And that was just a scratch on his wrist.
You don't say. Hey, Brooksie.
Yes, George.
Why don't you join Christie? Redfern and I have to decide what to do about Bixby.
Okay. I just hope she can play gin rummy. Be darned if I'm going to sleep tonight.
I don't know what you've got in mind, Valentine, but I've got something to clear up with this gentleman. Come on, Bixby. Pay attention.
Yes?
You made my syndicate a deal. $10,000 for the exclusive story of what happened 15 years ago. All the names, conniving, the works. When do you begin talking?
You're wasting your time, Redfern. Bixby merely loves to make deals. And he's not even afraid of the political thugs who sent McLean here. So I suggest we just...
Valentine, that's...
Yeah. Come on, Redfern.
That's how I found her, George. What?
Yeah, Christie, we're here.
Oh, we've got to do something for her. I'll go out to that fountain in the patio and get some water.
You stay right here, Miss Brooks. We don't know what's going on around here. I'll be right back.
Hey, tell me, Christie, who was it? Did you see him?
Oh. Knife. Oh, George.
No, Angel, don't.
Someone she couldn't even see. Bixby was with you and Redford. He's got someone else on with a knife.
Brooksy, I told you. Stop
Oh,
it.
how is she, Valentine? Did she... Oh. You don't think it could have been
McLean?
Well, you saw how he acted on the bus. He could have been...
I got it, Redford. Not with his wrist.
But I don't understand. I'm going to find...
Before we do that, we'd better get to McLean. No matter what we all think of him, he has a right to know what we're all up against.
Same way, Valentine. McLean got it the same way.
Yeah.
I was right, George. Bixby's got someone stalking us through the house with a knife. Someone we can't see, but who can see us.
And one of us is next. Unless we get hold of Bixby.
If we can find him.
Valentine, this is impossible. Bixby dead, too.
A state of affairs that seems natural to Casa Diablo.
This is just how we left Bixby. Sitting there quietly. He doesn't look as though he's even moved.
Someone else has been doing all the moving, Brooksie.
You know what this means. Somebody wants to see us all dead. Whatever his reasons.
I doubt if Mr. Loper would be so anxious now for us to bring Bixby back.
Well, he certainly sent us on a dilly of an assignment.
Well, we can't just stand here and wait.
I was saying the same thing to myself. So?
Why did you do that? What are you going to do with that gun?
Sorry, a weakness in my character. After I trip over my third corpse, I'm inclined to get trigger happy. I see you agree with me, Redford.
Of course, you're right, Valentine. I almost forgot I had McLean's gun.
Well, what are we going to do with George?
You're coming with me, Brooksie. Redfern, you go through all the rooms in the left wing off the patio. I'll take the right.
Okay. I'll meet you back here.
George Bixby had something in his house to see that none of us left here alive. Whoever it is must have turned on him, you know, like Frankenstein turning on his... George, you're not even listening to me.
Angel, if there's a grammar school around here, I think I'm going to enroll in the kindergarten.
Huh?
We're right down to the oldest outdoor sport in the world, Brooksie. The hunter and the hunted.
Valentine! Oh, Valentine! Come out on the balcony a minute. I found something.
What can he mean, George?
Now that age-old game begins. What is it, Redfern?
You better tell Miss Brooks to stay over there. I'd hate to have her see this thing. It's horrible.
You want to write comic books, Buster.
Huh? What's that?
You know you haven't found anything, Redfern. If I fell for that gag and came over there, you'd do what you would have done before if I hadn't taken a gun out.
George!
You killed all three of them, Redfern. McLean, when you took him to his room. On the way back, Christie. And when you insisted on getting the water for her, you polished off Bixby. When we reached this side of the bridge, Bixby had to ask everybody else who he was. Well, not you, Redfern. He knew you. You had some kind of a deal cooked up with him. All right, what was it, Redfern? Down, Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for the confession, Redfern.
What is Suzie going to do,
Listen
George?
carefully, Angel. Here, take this one. Stick close to the floor.
Okay.
Call down to that end. And when you get there, take one shot across the patio toward the sound of his voice.
What for?
Don't worry, you'll be hearing from him. Now get moving and stay down.
Yeah, George.
Hey, Redfern. Why don't you come on over and get us?
What's the hurry? Why should I fumble around in the dark? I'll get both of you when I can see what I'm doing. You don't stand a chance. I know every inch of this place. I'll always be one step ahead of you. Don't you have anything to say to that? You're just wasting bullets, Valentine. You can't see where I am. You know, I wish I were a reporter. What a yarn. Missing politician hires broken down newspaper man to pose as master of Casa Diablo. As fortunes dwindle, Earl Bixby evolves ingenious scheme to continue life of high revelry in Mexico City. Too bad it has to be a story that can never be told. That was the deal Bixby cooked up, Valentine. Do you hear me?
You don't have to raise your voice, friend.
What? Stop it!
You should have kept it simple, Buster. It might have worked. But I suppose being on the lam for 15 years does weird things to a man's mind. Doesn't it, Bixby?
And now you will please to do me the goodness to observe the moon as she sits herself on top of Mount Valdez. Muy romántico, muy simpático, muy...
Emilio, you sound like a fugitive from Mexico's Tin Pan Alley.
Mil gracias, señorita.
Hey, the first chance we get, Brooksie, we'd better wire Loper and tell him that if the Citizens Committee wants any testimony from Bixby, they'll have to send somebody down here to the San Sabo jail.
What'll we say? Bixby unavoidably detained. Slight case of murder?
Something to that effect.
Yeah, but seriously, Don. It's hard to believe everything that's happened.
Well, in a way, Bixby lived up to his end of the bargain. For $15,000, he agreed to live out his life modestly and obscurely somewhere in Mexico. He did. Even if he had to hire that poor dope to take his place.
I think he actually expected to get away with it. Mass slaughter.
Well, to his mind, it seemed simple enough. After he explained to the simple natives of San Sabo that his visitors went down into the chasm with a bridge, well, he just passed himself off as the crazy Americano whom they hardly ever saw.
Yeah. Emilio?
Si, señorita.
Well, shouldn't we turn this light off? You know, to make it easier for you driving at night, remember?
Oh, no, señorita. I can see quite well. Emilio's tour considers only the comfort of its passengers.
Yeah, well, we're much more comfortable in the dark.
But it was not necessary to do that, señorita. I insist
Emilio, how do you say shut up in Spanish?
Por favor.
You, of all people, should understand, remember? Muy romántico, muy simpático.
Muy terrifico.
In springtime, a young man's fancy turns to, well, you finished the familiar quotation. And if our young man who's going steady is a sensible fellow, he wants to keep his car going steady, too. In fact, most motorists just naturally want steady performance from their cars, and all year round, too. And that's why so many thousands of folks rely on Chevron Supreme gasoline. For this high-octane motor fuel is blended just right to put command performance in your car. It commands fast starts, smooth, steady pickup, and all the extra power your car needs on hills. Another thing, Chevron Supreme's climate-tailored. That means no matter what region of the West you're driving in, you can count on command performance from this premium quality fuel. It's tailored to each different altitude and temperature zone. Why not tomorrow get a tank full of the gasoline that gets the best out of your car, Chevron Supreme, blended just right to keep your car going steady. Ask for it at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Next week, when you join us for another adventure of George Valentine, we'll come across George and Brooksie in a small, shabby office, and we'll hear Brooksie saying,
George, what are you going to do?
Open the door of this closet.
But you know it's empty. The professor's body disappeared.
Just a hunch, Brooksie. Now, let's have a look.
I seem to have lived through this once before today.
Yeah. We've got the professor back with us, Angel.
Adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksie. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Herbert Little Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Victor Rodman as Bixby, Ted Von Eltz as Redfern, Gigi Pearson as Christine, Ken Harvey as McLean, Stan Farrar as Loper, and Tony Barrett as Emilio. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Now, there was one thing in this episode, welcome back, by the way, that was kind of funny, and that was when George was saying that Brooksie had to learn Spanish to know how to say no to the perfume salesman. Actually, in Spanish, no is a very simple word. You just say no. It's the same in English as in Spanish. But other than that, this was a fantastic, very suspenseful episode. Probably the episode that Brooksie has gotten the most scared in, and even though she actually fires a shot here, but fantastic episode, though I think the writers may have gotten a little confused when they were doing the credits, because I was confused as to the name of some of the actors, because the newspaper man became the crony from the escape crony at the end. But regardless, great show. All right, well, we have one comment. This one comes off of Podcast Alley from Tire Lizard. Most of the shows played are great. I'm currently getting caught up on Let George Do It, my current favorite. Listening to the old-time radio shows, I don't have anyone to generally talk about with him, so with Adam's hosting, it's almost as good as having a buddy to talk it over with. Well, thank you so much, and that's definitely true. With most old-time radio shows, you can talk to 100, 150 folks. Nobody even remember the show. In some cases, like Philip Marlowe or Sam Spade, they may have heard of the character, but they have no idea what the show is about. So it's definitely one of the sense of community, and that's also why we set up part of the reason we set up the Facebook page as well. All right, well, that'll wrap it up. Before we get started, I do want to let you know about Audible. You know, I love a great mystery novel, but it can be hard to find the time to sit down and read one. That's part of the reason why we recommend Audible. With Audible, you can listen to any one of their 75,000 titles, wherever you happen to be, whether it's Raymond Chandler or Agatha Christie or one of the more modern authors. You can enjoy the whole book through the power of Audible's audiobooks. You can try it out free for 2 weeks and get a free audiobook. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio to start your free trial. Well, let's get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, Girl with the Gazelle.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And as for me, well, I'd like to talk about those few minutes you have while you're waiting for dinner every evening. That's the perfect time for a glass of Petri California Sherry. Petri Sherry is the best beginning a good meal ever had. You really feel like you're enjoying the good things of life when you take time for a glass of Petri Sherry. Hold that glass of sherry to the light. Look at it. It's a beautiful dark amber. Yes, and Petri Sherry is clear and fragrant, the way a good wine should be. Now taste it. You've got something. That Petri Sherry has a real heart-of-the-grape flavor. Oh, and look, if you like your sherry dry, not sweet, Petri makes a fine dry sherry. It's called Petri Pale Dry. And if you don't know yet which you prefer, the regular sherry or the dry, why not try both? Don't buy one, buy two. But just be sure you always buy Petri. And now let's look in on our old friend, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he's expecting us. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. Draw up your usual chair. I'll get on with tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure.
Well, how did the story begin, Doctor?
It was one day in the autumn of 1887, I remember. Holmes and I were seated on either side of the fire in our Baker Street lodgings. The great man, his eyes half closed, his long, thin fingers pressed together, lay back in his chair, filling the room with large blue clouds of tobacco smoke, and discoursing on one of his favorite subjects, Professor Moriarty. I can almost hear him now, Mr. Bartell, as he said...
Crime, Watson, is the organizer of half that is evil and nearly all that is undetected in this great metropolis.
Oh, surely that's an exaggeration,
No, it
Holmes.
isn't, my dear fellow. There's a brain of the first order, and his agents are numerous and splendidly organized. He himself sits motionless like a spider in the center of his web. But that web has 1,000 radiations, and he knows every quiver of each one of them. It's fortunate for me that there's only one Moriarty. If every criminal were equally astute, I'd be in bankruptcy within the year.
I don't think you need to worry about bankruptcy, Holmes. As I came in just now, I picked these letters up from the whole table and slipped them into my pocket. Here you are.
Oh, thanks, old chap.
They didn't look like bills to me. I observed the crest of the Duke of Carlisle on the top envelope.
Oh, dear me. 500 guineas. His Grace is extremely generous in his evaluation of my services.
I don't agree. After all, you did save him from a shocking scandal.
Oh, listen to this, Watson.
I seen you yesterday when you come to the cricket match. You wasn't watching the cricket. If you value your life, keep your filthy long nose to yourself.
And it's signed Joe the Butcher.
No. Who on earth Joe the Butcher?
Oh, minor criminal that I was instrumental in sending to prison for a short term. He flatters himself, though. I was watching the cricket. No idea that Joe was back in practice again. I must keep an eye on him. Hello. Letter on Carlton Hotel stationery. Now, I say, this is interesting. Very interesting.
Oh, what's it say, Holmes?
Dear Mr. Holmes, I've been informed that you are a man of ability and discretion. My life is in grave danger, and I need your help. Upon receipt of this letter, come to my hotel at once. I shall be expecting you. And it's signed, Francois Dulac.
Oh, it's rather peremptory, isn't it? No, please, just come to my hotel at once. Who is this Dulac, anyway?
Watson, old fellow.
Yes?
We were talking of Moriarty just now. I have a feeling that this letter may lead us to him.
Well, what makes you say that?
Francois Dulac, the writer of this letter, is recognized in France as the one indisputable authority on the paintings of Jean-Baptiste Greuze.
Well, I still don't see the connection with Moriarty.
If there is one thing Moriarty loves, more than the dazzling abstractions of mathematics and even more dazzling achievements of crime, it is the paintings of Greuze. The suggested combination of impending danger and a Greuze expert spells Moriarty to me. Get your hat and coat, old fellow. We're off to the Carlton Hotel to see Monsieur Dulac at once.
This is room 212, all right, but there's no answer.
I'll knock again.
Shall I go and get someone to unlock the door?
No, Chap.
Huh?
Don't want to attract attention to our prospective found. Hotel locks wouldn't be very hard to pick. Here. The skeleton key should do the trick quite easily.
Well, the man at the desk downstairs said that Mr. Dulac was in his room.
You know, Watson, he said he thought he was in his room. Uh-huh. Easier than I anticipated. Come on, let's go in.
Doesn't look as if anyone's occupying this room. No signs of any personal belongings.
No clothes hanging in the wardrobe, no luggage.
Yet he is still registered here.
Hello. What's this stain on the carpet by the bed here?
Great Scott, is it...
It's a blood stain, Watson.
Blood stain?
And the stain is still damp. I'm afraid we're too late. Come on. We can do no more good here.
You're not giving up, Holmes?
No, of course not, my dear fellow. Let's see what we can find out from the hotel manager. I refuse to believe that in the 19th century a distinguished foreigner can vanish into thin air.
Yes, Monsieur Dulac did have a visitor early on today, Mr. Holmes.
Do you remember his name?
I think it was Perkins or Parsons, but I'm not sure.
Can you describe his appearance?
I think so, Mr. Holmes. He was a very tall gentleman. Tall and thin, with deep-sunk eyes.
Clean-shaven?
Oh, yes, sir. He had a high forehead and a funny way of moving his head from side to side.
Oh, yes.
Right, Joe Holmes, that's almost an exact description of Moriarty.
Exactly, Watson. Have you seen Monsieur Dulac since this Mr. Perkins or Parsons called on him?
No, I haven't, sir. But his visitor came back only an hour ago. He had some men with him. They carried some lodged packages out of the hotel.
Packages? But not luggage, eh?
No, packages, Mr. Holmes.
Has Monsieur Dulac received any other visitors since he arrived here?
None that have been here to see him, sir. But I understand that Sir Henry Davenant has been most anxious to get in touch with him.
Sir Henry Davenant? Thank you. I'm extremely obliged to you. Come on, Watson.
Always proud to be of service to Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
The plot begins to clear, Watson.
Well, what makes you say that, Holmes?
Sir Henry Davenant is a millionaire whose art collection is world famous. A year ago, the papers were full of his latest acquisition, the gem of his collection, Jean-Baptiste Greuze painting, Young Girl with a Gazelle. And now it would appear that for some reason Moriarty wishes to prevent a meeting between Sir Harry Davenant and Monsieur Dulac, a Greuze expert. Now, do you see why the plot begins to clear?
Vaguely, but what are you going to do?
Davenant is said to be something of a hermit. He won't have anything to do with officials, interviewers, and people like that. But we know that he wishes to consult an expert on the paintings of Jean-Baptiste Greuze. The next move should be obvious, old chap.
Gracious me, you mean that you'll impersonate one?
Certainly. If a Greuze expert is what he wants, then a Greuze expert is what he's going to get.
Holmes, I must say your disguise is amazingly effective.
Monsieur, you do me the great honor. If I appear convincing to the astute Dr. Watson, How can I fail to convince Sir Henry Devereux?
Oh, my dear fellow, it's marvelous. Pulling the good.
Yes. Here we are, sir. Sir Henry's house. Let's hope for the best, old fellow.
I don't know exactly what a French art expert looks like, but I could certainly believe that you were one. I only hope that I can be equally convincing in the role of a patron of the arts.
You certainly look the part, old chap.
Good afternoon. Can I help you?
My name is Vernet. André Vernet. I am most anxious to make the acquaintance of Sir Henry Devereux.
I'm afraid that Sir Henry is extremely difficult to see, sir. I can tell him you're here, but he very rarely gives interviews.
That is a great disappointment to me. Perhaps you would just go and tell him I am a pupil and a disciple of the great Francois Dulac.
I will do what I can, sir. Come in, won't you, gentlemen? If you'll wait here for a moment, I'll take the message. What was the name again,
Vernet, André Vernet, and this gentleman is Mr. Watson.
Very good, sir.
Well, we got into the house. Now let's hope that you can impress the master of it.
Not as easy a task, I fear, old fellow. I've had to match opinions on the paintings of Greuze with an expert. My own knowledge of the subject is somewhat sketchy, I'm afraid.
Yes, and mine is absolutely nil.
Greuze was a naturalistic painter who flourished at the close of the 18th century, and though his paintings command a fabulous fee in this day and age, he himself died in great poverty.
Someone's coming.
Monsieur Vernet, will you and Mr. Watson come with me, please? Sir Henry is most anxious to meet you.
Merci, mademoiselle.
My name is Violet Jackson. I look after Sir Henry's art collection.
Indeed, a very pleasurable job, I'm sure, my dear. From what I hear, he has a magnificent gallery.
He has one of the finest in the world.
Yes.
His latest acquisition is the famous young girl with the Gazelle by Greuze. Oh, but I'm sure you know all about that, Monsieur Vernet. I think you said in your message you were a student of the great Dulac.
I have that inestimable privilege, mademoiselle.
Oh, this is Sir Henry's study.
Thank you, Violet. You may go.
Yes, Sir Henry.
You're Vernet, I'm sure, and this is Mr. Watson?
That's right, Sir Henry. Mr. Vernet is staying with me.
I see. Well, sit down, won't you? Look, Vernet, you're a friend of Dulac's, aren't you?
I think I may claim that honor, monsieur.
Then why in thunder can't I get in touch with him? He's staying at the Carlton Hotel, isn't he?
He was, or has been staying there, monsieur. Oui.
I've left half a dozen messages for him, asking him to come and see me, and he hasn't answered one of them. I can't understand it. It's most important that I see him.
Monsieur is in some trouble, perhaps?
Perhaps. Now, you fellows are familiar with the painting by Greuze, the young lady with the gazelle, aren't you?
Oh, yes, Sir Henry. Yes, indeed.
Oh, you are, eh? What do you think of it?
Well,
one of the greatest works, in my humble opinion, monsieur. Of course, I have only seen a reproduction, but it seemed to me to have a freshness and vigor of the flesh tints, a great firmness and brilliance of line. You are indeed fortunate to own it, monsieur.
Don't know about fortunate. Cost me £40,000.
I still say you are most fortunate, monsieur. Would you grant me the honor of to examine the original?
Well, I don't know whether I ought to. I've had to guard it very carefully ever since this... Well, but perhaps in your case I can make an exception.
You received threats regarding the painting, Sir Henry?
Yes, I have, Mr. Watson. And they've worried me so much that I've even thought of engaging the services of a private detective.
Oh, indeed, monsieur. How very interesting.
The Duke of Carlisle strongly recommended a fellow by the name of Sherlock Holmes. I was seriously thinking of going to him.
Instead of which?
He has come to you, Sir Henry. A fact that will save us all a lot of time, I'm sure.
Well, what kind of horseplay is this, sir? Who the devil are you?
My name is Sherlock Holmes.
Then why do you come here masquerading as a French art expert?
Because I'd heard of your aversion to giving interviews, and I wanted to see you urgently. I thought that in the character of a supposed Greuze expert, I was most likely to gain immediate admission.
Well, then, your friend here?
Dr. Watson, my colleague.
Well, it's all turned out for the best, Sir Henry. You wanted to consult Mr. Holmes, and he was most anxious to see you.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you fellows are here. You see, I'm devilish worried about that Greuze of mine.
Oh, why, Sir Henry?
Well, I bought it at an auction. There was another man bidding against me all the time, and when it was finally knocked down in my name, he became most insulting. He seemed unable to bear not owning the picture himself. He told me bluntly that I wouldn't enjoy it long. Well, I didn't think much about it at the time, but lately I've been receiving postcards repeating the threat. I don't like it. That's a fact.
Well, you've kept those postcards, I hope, Sir Henry?
No, threw them in the fire where they belong.
Oh, that's a pity, sir. Can you recall the name of this bidder at the auction who threatened you?
No, didn't know his name.
Can you describe his appearance?
Well, let me see. He was tall, clean-shaven, and a curious habit of moving his head from side to side.
Moriarty again.
Yes, old chap. My supposition was correct. Now, tell me, Sir Henry, is the painting safely guarded?
Well, I'd say that it was impregnable, Holmes. It's not in my regular galleries. I had a special strong room built for it when I started to receive these threats. It has a lock to which only I know the combination, and a special clockwork device that so controls the room that even I can only enter it during certain daytime hours.
And yet, Sir Henry, with such thorough precautions, you appear to be frightened. Why?
Well, I hardly dare trust my own shadow, Holmes. But as you possibly know, one of Greuze's pupils, a certain Madame Ledoux, imitated his paintings most successfully. Several of the experts were fooled. I confess that I've been frightened lately, since I received the threat, that a clever man might try and substitute a fake painting for the original, if indeed he hasn't already done so. That's why I was so anxious to get in touch with Dulac. He'd know a fraud at once.
But a substitution would be impossible if you're the only one that knows the combination to the lock of the strong room.
Well, that's what my logic tells me too, Doctor. And yet I'm very uneasy, I must confess.
It's still daylight, Sir Henry. Would it be possible for us to examine the painting now?
Well, certainly. By the way, what happened to Francois Delac? Did he leave the Carlton Hotel?
He did, sir. So the circumstances of his departure made us distinctly uneasy.
In what way?
His room was empty. There were no signs of luggage, and yet...
Come in. Yes, Violet, what is it?
This note was just left for you, Sir Henry. I was asked to deliver it at once.
Who left it, Violet?
Well, he didn't give his name, Sir Henry. But he was a tall, thin man with deep, sunk eyes.
Oh. What's the note say?
Why, it's the same fellow again. Listen to this. I told you you wouldn't enjoy the painting for long. You didn't, did you?
Great Scott, it's Moriarty.
Holmes, I don't see anything funny about this. What makes you laugh? It's obvious that my painting has been stolen.
I find nothing funny about it either, Sir Henry. But I must admit a certain pleasure. Once again, I'm crossing swords with an adversary who was more than worthy of my steel.
You'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a second, so I'm just going to remind you that Petri Sherry could really be called the all-round, all-American wine. That's right, Petri California Sherry. Now, the reason I say that is because Petri Sherry is not only a swell before dinner wine, but it's a perfect wine for almost any occasion. When company drops in, serve Petri Sherry. After dinner, when you're just sitting around chatting, Petri Sherry again is just right. Believe me, you couldn't ask for a better all-round wine than Sherry. You couldn't ask for a better tasting Sherry than Petri. Petri Sherry. Well, Dr. Watson, you've kept me on the edge of my chair so far with your story. What happened next? Did Sir Henry Davenant take you to see his famous painting?
He did, Mr. Bartell. Together with Miss Violet Jackson, we descended countless flights of stairs. Doors opened where no one expected a door to exist. Finally, after walking down a narrow stone staircase that turned and twisted, we came up against a blank wall. It seemed that we could go no further. But a time clock, a combination of numbers, and a hidden door slid back. We stood in the interior of a small room. A room with no windows and hardly any light. An oil painting stood on an easel before us. It was the incomparable Greuze painting of a young girl with a gazelle. We stood looking at it for a brief moment, and then Sir Henry Davenant said,
Heaven, the painting is still safe.
Yes, Sir Henry. If it still is the same painting...
It looks the same, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, it does to me.
The fact remains that only Francois Dulac could tell us if it is the same or a brilliant copy.
Yes, and Mr. Dulac has been silent.
So it would seem. Of course, we could ask the expert at the British Museum to pass judgment.
Yeah, but how could it have been stolen? It'd be impossible to smuggle it out of here and replace it with a copy.
There's only one way of being absolutely certain. With your permission, Sir Henry, I should like to make a test.
You're going to take a sample of the paint, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, that should give us certain proof.
Well, very well. Yeah, you'd better do it, Violet. But be careful. Remember, the painting cost me £40,000.
A minute fragment of paint will be sufficient for the test, won't it, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, indeed.
With my fingernails, Sir Henry, I'll scratch off a tiny sample.
Certainly, I think it's a dash fine bit of work, whoever painted it.
There you are, Mr. Holmes. Is that enough paint
Splendid,
for
Miss
you?
Jackson, splendid. Thank you. Please put it on this envelope for me, will you? That's it. And now, Sir Henry, I shall return to Baker Street and analyze this paint. Within an hour, I shall be able to tell you whether the painting is worth £40,000 or a plugged farthing.
Well, Holmes, did you make the test?
I did, Sir Henry.
And?
I'm afraid there's no doubt that your painting is a fraud.
Oh, fraud.
The sample of paint that I examined was manufactured not more than 25 years ago, and Greuze died in 1805.
Well, I still say that it's a fine painting, whoever did it. I wouldn't mind having it myself.
I agree, Dr. Watson. In fact, I'd be glad to buy it. It's a brilliant copy, and more than likely it was done by Madame Ledoux.
You're remarkably quiet, Sir Henry.
£40,000. £40,000!
No, sir, put that knife down. Holmes, help me grab him.
Don't worry, gentlemen. I'm not about to commit suicide in despair, if that's what you're thinking.
Now, why are you grasping that knife, sir?
Because I have work to do in my strong room. I'm going to use this knife to smash that lying canvas into 40,000 pieces. Yes, well, I suppose you're right, Violet. It's childish to mutilate this daub.
It's a brilliant fraud, Sir Henry. I'd like to have it. I'll buy it from you gladly.
Buy it from me? You can have it. Go and make arrangements to have the wretched thing taken away at once. I don't want any frauds in my collection.
Yes, Sir Henry, and thank you.
Now, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I'll pay you any fee you name if you can tell me how the original painting was stolen.
Well, Sir Henry, the how must here precede the who. And the how, I must confess, seems impossible.
Yes, I agree. This is a sealed metal room. The only entrance is through the door. That has a combination that only you know, Sir Henry.
Perfectly true. It's impossible for anyone to enter this room without my being present. Or I would have sworn it was.
Let's examine these walls, Watson. That's the secret panel. Ventilator. No method of entrance here.
Well, you'll find no flaws, I'm sure. This room is built like a giant safe. And the time lock on the door is equally solid.
Is the time lock working now?
Yes. It started 5 minutes ago when we opened the door. But don't worry. It's perfectly safe with the door open.
But when the door's closed, it couldn't be reopened again, I take it, Sir Henry.
Not until the morning, Doctor, no. I had the lock specially designed.
Very ingenious. This presents as pretty a problem as ever I've tackled, Sir Henry. A large painting stolen and a fake one substituted in a sealed room to which only you have access. I must confess the how seems utterly impossible.
Remember what you always say, Holmes. Throw out the impossible, and whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the possible.
Let's consider the who for a moment. Is your butler absolutely reliable?
Absolutely.
How about Miss Jackson?
Oh, completely trustworthy. Brought letters of recommendation from most of the leading art galleries in London. Intelligent, too. And serious-minded. She's made a deep study of mathematics as well as her knowledge of painting.
Mathematics? How do you know that, Sir Henry?
Well, she had a book with her the other day. I was surprised at the title. Could have been a novel, but no. It was called The Dynamics of an Asteroid, and it was inscribed to her by the author.
Dynamics of an Asteroid, and inscribed to her by the author. Thank heavens for your memories, Henry. That book was written by Professor Moriarty. Violet Jackson must be an accomplice of his.
Violet?
The door! Someone slammed it shut.
Yes, and it's not very hard to guess who that someone is.
Oh, but I can't believe that Violet is a criminal.
Look, there's a note being pushed under the door.
Strike a match, will you, old fellow?
Right, sure. What's it say, Holmes?
Forgive my unladylike eavesdropping, but as Mr. Sherlock Holmes is near the truth as he is, I'm afraid it would be unwise for me to remain here any longer. On the other hand, you are in no danger of smothering in the strong room, but your imprisonment should delay my pursuit till morning. Violet Jackson.
He's escaped us, Holmes.
Don't worry, Watson. Jackson's failure to procure the painting for Moriarty will land her in a far worse dilemma than anything we could subject her to. Moriarty has never tolerated failure on the part of his minions. A brilliant plot, old fellow, a brilliant plot. Moriarty is at the zenith of his powers. How fortunate that we were able to foil him.
What do you mean, foil him? My painting's been stolen.
Your painting, Sir Henry? Oh, no. It's here in this room.
What on earth are you talking about, Holmes?
You reminded me of my own dictum, Watson. I discarded the impossible. It was impossible that the picture had been stolen, therefore it had not been stolen.
You mean that this painting is the original, Grove?
Yes, of course, sir. Surely the whole plot is crystal clear now.
Just about as clear as porridge to me.
Well, then let me explain. The whole episode of Francois Dulac, the note to me, the empty hotel room, and the significant bloodstains and the apparent disappearance of Dulac were all part of Moriarty's plot. The real Dulac never left France. Moriarty created him in England to lure me into the case.
Why in thunder should he want to do that, Holmes?
Yes. I should think you're the last person he'd want on the scene.
Oh, on the contrary, sir. He knew that I'd grab at his bait, the apparent murder of a Greuze expert who would make it seem likely that your painting had a substitute, Sir Henry. He wanted me to test the painting, which I did. I fell into his trap very neatly.
The paint, Holmes. You said that it was no more than 20 years old.
Yes, my dear fellow, the answer should be obvious.
I see it. Violet was his accomplice. Had prepared the painting beforehand and carefully scraped off a piece of modern paint.
Exactly, Sir Henry. And Moriarty had assumed, quite correctly as it turned out, that as soon as you thought your painting was a fraud, you'd want to get rid of it.
And that girl was going to take it out of this house with your full approval. And, of course, turn it over to Moriarty. What a fantastic scheme.
A devilishly clever one, old chap. If it hadn't been for your chance remark about the book on mathematics, Sir Henry, I'm very much afraid the young lady with the Gazelle might even now be on her way out of your house.
Holmes, I can't tell you how grateful I am. And I'm going to express that gratitude in a very material manner, I assure you.
Thank you, Sir Henry, but I wouldn't dream of accepting a fee for this case. I've been shockingly obtuse. I might easily have let them walk away with your treasure right under our noses.
We locked in here for the night, sir?
I'm very much afraid so, Dr. Watson. Oh, I shouldn't be surprised if the butler notices our disappearance and comes looking for us. But he won't be able to open the door. It'll need a professional locksmith to get us out of here.
Oh, really? It looks as if we'll spend a very cheerful evening.
Don't be gloomy, my dear fellow.
Oh, gloomy.
You're locked in with one of the loveliest girls in history, and she's genuine at that. Strike another match, old chap, shall we? What? Let's look at her once again.
Doctor, that was not only a swell story, but I really learned something.
Oh, good, Mr. Bartell. And just what did you learn?
Well, this fellow Greuze, the painter...
Yes?
I know this must sound stupid to you, but until you mentioned his name, I'd never heard of him before.
Holmes mentioned his name to me. I'd never heard him before either. But then... we'll never learn about the good things in this world unless somebody tells us.
Exactly. That's the way I feel about Petri wine.
No. Just wait a minute.
Now, here's the way I look at it. There are thousands of people who know about Petri wine and love it, right?
Yes,
but even though it's a wonderful wine, there must be some people who don't know about it. So I tell them about it. And I tell them about the Petri family and how they've been making wine for generations and how they've been handing on down from father to son, the fine art of turning luscious grapes into delicious wine. Yes, and when I tell them that the name Petri on a bottle of wine is the personal assurance of the Petri family that every drop of wine in that bottle is good wine, well, that's all you have to know. So it adds up to this. If you want a fine wine for any occasion, you want a Petri wine, because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Final Problem. Music is by Dean Fosler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studio. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This is the first time since towards the end of the 1944-45 season with the Paradol Chamber that you've actually had Professor Moriarty playing an active role, albeit we don't actually hear from Professor Moriarty. And I think they probably went through a little bit of a period when they were relying on the Moriarty character, but I think this episode was very well done, and a nice little addition to the Sherlock Holmes story. And Watson steps it up again by helping to solve the case by reminding Holmes of his most famous axiom. I guess Holmes is like the rest of that, and sometimes we have to be reminded of the things we tell other people when facing similar situations. We have this comment from Justine over on Podcast Alley. Hi there from Sheffield, England. Me and my husband love listening to the show. We always laugh when the host turns the subject round to wine and how Dr. Watson seems so annoyed with him when he does so. Keep up the great work, Adam. Well, thanks a lot, Justine. This particular Petri wine commercials really are, I think, some of the most interesting and effective at connecting with the audience and keeping them interested, particularly with the end ads, because once a show is over, I don't think it matters whether it's TV or radio. There's a temptation, I'll just go ahead and turn it off and do something else. The show's over. But they keep you, they succeed in keeping you engaged and interested. It's a fantastic act that Nigel Bruce and Bartell have worked out, and I don't think there was ever a more effective radio advertising tag team ever. So thanks so much again for the comments. Well, before we get into today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, I want to let you know briefly about Johnny Dollar Air. It's important in these tight economic times to get the best deal you can while traveling. Through JohnnyDollarAir.com, which is powered by Priceline, you're able to name your own price on hotels, rental cars, airline tickets, and a wide variety of other travel options, as well as being able to choose from a variety of published fares, so you can save money on your travel expenses, which is important with the holidays coming up. Go to JohnnyDollarAir.com first for your travel. Now let's get into today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, the Henry J. Unger matter.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Cal Porter at Associated, Johnny.
What's up, Cal?
Remember the Unger case, about 1945? Henry J. Unger. The testimony set him up for a 1 to 10 hitch. Insurance fraud.
Yeah, sure, I remember him.
They let him out yesterday. He's been noising about that you're the top of his shopping list.
Oh, I've heard that kind of talk before.
Well, all I know is he's not here in Hartford visiting grandmother. We'd like to have you on a payroll for a few weeks just for safety's sake. Keep an eye on him for us.
Probably the easiest money I've ever taken, Cal. If I remember Mr. Unger, he'll have his eye on me.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Here's a taste treat you can enjoy indoors, outdoors, at work, or at play. The cool, long-lasting mint flavor refreshes you. The smooth, steady chewing helps keep you fresh and alert. adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Associated Insurance Companies of New England. Attention, Calvin Porter. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during investigation of the Henry J. Unger matter. Expense account item 1, $2.20, night letter to Warden of State Penitentiary for dossier on Henry J. Unger. I just hung up and the doorbell rang. Just a second.
Hello, Johnny.
Eileen.
Well, can I come in?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, nice place. Been so long I'd almost forgotten. Oh, I see you got rid of that imitation Rodin, the miniature. Wasn't your type, anyway. Oh, I must say, you're not being very hospitable. Don't I deserve a drink?
Sure.
Well, what's the latest?
Working as hard as ever.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sorry if I'm a lousy conversationalist, Eileen, but like you say, it's been a long time. I thought you said you never wanted to see me again.
I did, once. But when I got your wire yesterday, I decided that
My wire? I didn't send you any wire.
Don't make me seem like a fool, Johnny. I got a wire from you asking me up here this evening. You said you wanted to talk things over.
Look, I don't know who's playing a gag on you, Eileen, but I didn't send you a wire. I know how you felt 2 years ago when we said so long.
Well, maybe I was wrong 2 years ago. I know I made some mistakes, and you made some mistakes.
Let's see that wire.
Oh, sure. It's right here in my purse.
Tonight at 7:30, let's talk things over at my place, Love Johnny. I didn't send that. You sure you don't know a few other Johnnies?
That was a dirty crack.
You like little things like this, don't you, Eileen? You like to write yourself notes, make up stories. You've got an A1 imagination. Well, I went all through that a long time
Now,
ago.
you listen to me. This is no gag, and it's not my imagination.
All right. Let's make things as pleasant as possible as long as you've come.
Fair enough. I thought a lot about you, Johnny. Oh, I'm not apologizing. Really, I'm not. Just thinking back. I'm glad it didn't turn out the way we originally planned it. I'd have spent half my life worrying over you.
Oh, that's very touching, especially in light of the fact that every other evening it was somebody else.
I told you, Johnny.
Yes, that we were going to be pleasant.
Oh, that's right. We were going to be pleasant. Oh. You expecting someone?
Nope.
Mr. Dollar?
Yes?
Maybe you don't recall my face. The name is Unger. Henry J. Unger. Mind if I come in?
I'm busy.
Ah, yes, I see. Well, we won't take much of your time, will we, Ferdy?
A very minimal amount of your time.
Mind introducing me to the lady?
What do you want, Unger?
My name is Henry J. Unger, miss.
Well, maybe I better go, Johnny.
No, stick around.
Go on, Eileen. I'll see you later.
I said stick around.
I guess you better stick around. She just came over for a visit, Unger. Let her go home.
Oh, no. Maybe she'd like to watch the activities. Ferdy, get out the needle.
Now, look, Unger.
Oh, you talk, just like someone in insurance. You make so much noise and you don't say anything. How's it coming, Ferdy?
Satisfactorily. It's all ready. And they were each having a drink, too.
I noticed that. Got the rope?
Now you know I have the rope.
That chair will be fine. Sit down, Dollar.
What's the angle, Unger?
You'll find out. Sit down. You work with gloves on, Ferdy?
Sure. I could do it with mittens. And once around. Twice around. Once around. Twice around.
Hey, look. What are you going to do? Why don't you let him alone?
It's love, Ferdy.
Let her go home, Unger. She hasn't anything to do with this.
Finished, Ferdy?
Come on, Unger.
Ferdy, you finished?
One more little knot. There. All done. And very sturdy, too.
All right, Ferdy. Roll up his sleeve.
Right. Hey, look. He's got a nice big blue vein right here. It's so hard to find a good, nice, blue, bulgy vein on somebody. Feel, Uncle, feel.
He loves his work, this Ferdy. Used to be a lab technician at some big hospital. Didn't you, Ferdy?
That's right, Mr. Unger. Hold very still, Mr. Dollar, and concentrate on this lovely girl you see standing before you. Just conceive of yourself as being a very big man, the President of the United States or something. Someone with influence. There's a great deal of influence.
My head was loaded with nails. The warm air clouded my nostrils, and I couldn't breathe. I tried to open my eyes, but no luck. I longed for something bitter and bubbly and cold. It was the worst hangover I'd ever had in my life. I finally forced my eyes open. One of my hands felt heavy and the other felt light. I turned my head painfully. There was a gun in my right fist. On the floor, dried blood. A lot of blood. And a girl named Eileen.
Police!
Oh.
He killed her! Police!
It was the maid. I remembered the keys hanging in a great silver ring from a wide waist. And she was gone. Empty liquor bottles. 2 in the corner, 1 near the body. I focused my eyes on the gun. It was my own. I sat up and opened the breech. It had been fired. Twice. I looked at my watch. I put it up to my face and I looked at it hard. 10:20. I had been out almost 3 hours. I went out into the fresh air and it hit me like a slap in the mouth. I almost passed out again. But I took it slow, not breathing too deeply. Expense account item 2, $1, and I forget how many cents cab fare to the combination home and office of my good friend, old Dr. Norwich. I was still so groggy I almost fell into the house when he opened the door.
Why, Johnny, here, let me take your arm.
Oh, I'm a little woozy.
That I can see. Here, sit down before you fall down. Thanks. Here we are.
Look, Doc, I gotta trust you. I just been framed. Look at my right arm. The vein.
It's been punctured.
What did they give me?
I don't know. I can take a blood sample and lab it up for you.
Thanks, Doc.
I can't be certain, but my opinion is you've been given a very adult dose of alcohol. Possibly a mixture of 50% alcohol and intravenous fluid.
Can I prove it?
Did you have a drink?
Yeah, 1.
Well, I'm afraid gastric analysis would show a trace of alcohol.
Yeah, but not enough to make me pass out.
By now, most of the alcohol would be in the blood whether you drank it or had it pumped into you.
So it's a dead end, huh?
If it's a frame, Johnny, I'm afraid the evidence I could supply wouldn't be much help to you. You've been radically anesthetized, my friend, but that little round dot on your arm could have been self-inflicted. A good prosecuting attorney could make mincemeat out of your case.
Can you at least make me solid again?
It'll take a few hours, but I can get you on your feet. If you don't mind being treated a little rough.
I don't mind anything, Doc, as long as you can get me awake enough to keep myself alive. After a Swiss bath consisting of ice-cold water pressured at the body out of a stout hose, plus a potent shot of vitamin B complex and another cup of coffee, I felt almost normal. The throb in my head was gone. In its place was the cold realization that I was wanted for murder. Expense account item 3, 50 cents taxi fare to Asylum Street. It was funny going through all the motions of a murderer. I began to feel an edge of guilt creep into me. By the time I hauled myself into the Lost Soul Cafe, I felt as much a part of the place as the tramp at the elbow of the bar. I found an old informant at a front table. Expense account item 4, $25 strictly for information.
Sure. Sit down. For that kind of money, sit down.
Thanks.
Now, what was that question again?
Henry J. Unger, Victor.
Henry J. Unger. Just unfrozen.
That's right.
Well, 25 isn't very much.
25 is my present limit. This isn't too big a case.
I could do better on quiz show.
Henry J. Unger and his character man, Ferdy.
$25 and a shot.
Right.
Won't you join me?
Oh, I can't look at this stuff.
I took the cure once. Fistula, we're the same. Henry J. Who?
Unger.
Well, he hasn't been around long enough for me to know his habits. Just a few weeks. He just got unfrozen, you know.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Did I? Oh, yes, so I did. Well, he's been dropping in here every afternoon about... What time is it?
3 o'clock.
In the afternoon?
Yeah, in the afternoon.
I've been here a long time. Well, he should be here at any minute. You know, I should stop imbibing. You know why? It isn't really good for you.
Good. The treatment I had last night should quit.
Oh, wonderful. Give me a temperance lecture. I haven't heard one in 14 years. The last lady that lectured me, I married. Turned her into a derelict and got rid of her. Give me a temperance lecture.
Yeah, some other time. I just saw him.
Where?
See you later, Victor. Thanks. Hello, Unger.
Well, Dollar, the police know you're out?
Let's sit down and talk it over.
I wouldn't stay in one place too long if I were you.
It won't be too long.
Well, speak your piece.
This strictly revenge, Unger?
Let's put it this way. 5 years is a long time. Good thing I learned to behave myself, or I'd still be running the prison paper.
You're the noisy type, Unger. You'd be the finger man if I so much as stubbed my toe.
Correction, I would have been. Now I've got the law doing my dirty work.
If you haven't made a mistake.
I planned this for 5 years. You won't find any mistakes. Oh, I thought a lot about you, Dollar, up at the resort.
You know, in the years I've been in the insurance game, I've seen you guys come and go by the dozen. They turn you out of the same mold. You flip a few jobs, and it gives you a kick, and it goes to your head. Then comes that one mistake. They salt you away, and it gripes you. The world's to blame. You look around for somebody to take it out on.
You talk a lot for a fugitive, Dollar.
You're going to sit down over a piece of paper and write out a full confession, Unger.
What makes you think so?
This.
A confession under duress isn't worth very much.
It'll be worth a lot to me. For one thing, it'll be the truth. You'll have to prove I held a gun on you.
Drop it, Dollar.
What?
I said drop it.
You got the wrong man, Lieutenant.
I doubt it, Dollar. You're under arrest for the murder of Eileen Kennedy.
To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The lively, full-bodied, real mint flavor cools your mouth, moistens your throat, freshens your taste, and the chewing itself gives you a little lift, helps you keep going at your best. So for real chewing enjoyment that's refreshing and long-lasting, always keep Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. Healthful, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum will make every day more enjoyable. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Johnny, it's my duty to warn you that anything you say may be held against you. If you got a good lawyer...
Lieutenant, this is ridiculous. You know I'm not a killer.
Do you want a good lawyer?
Yeah. Guess I better get one. Call Joseph P. Harris. Numbers in the book.
Take care of that, Sergeant. Yeah, it looks bad for you, Johnny. When the DA gets hold of this evidence, he's going to be pretty nasty. You have any contradictory facts?
Yeah, sure. I'm innocent.
Can you prove it? Oh, come on, Dollar. You're in trouble.
It was a beautiful job of framing, Lieutenant.
All right, tell me what happened.
Eileen Kennedy received a telegram yesterday. It asked her to meet me up at my apartment at 7:30 the next night that I wanted to talk.
You two had quite a romance at one time,
Yeah, we had quite quite a romance, but I didn't send that telegram.
Can you prove it?
I didn't send the... No. No, I can't prove it.
Go on.
Well, she got there at 7:30. We had a few words. Fight? Not a fight, differences of opinion. We weren't up there 5 minutes when the doorbell rang. It was Unger. He was with a guy he called Ferdy.
Well, what happened?
Unger pulled a gun on me. He sat me down in the chair, and Ferdy tied me up. Then Ferdy injected alcohol into my vein, enough to make me pass out. He dumped a few bottles around the apartment, probably pouring the liquor down the drain. And when I woke up, Eileen was lying dead on the floor next to me.
That makes a good story, Dollar.
Well, here's the mark on my arm. You can still see it.
Yeah. All right, Johnny, now it's my turn. We found Eileen Kennedy in your apartment. There were 2 bullets in her, one in the abdomen, one in the chest, penetrating the heart at the right ventricle.
From my gun?
Yeah, the one we took from you when we captured you. 38 automatic.
Lieutenant,
We found empty liquor bottles around the place. Gastric analysis at autopsy of the girl showed alcohol.
Sure, we each had a drink.
A drink or many, there was a trace of alcohol. Now, you say you didn't take more than 1 drink. Can you prove it?
Can you prove it? Can you prove it? Can you prove you washed your face this morning?
I don't have to, Johnny. Okay, Sergeant, take him to his cell. When his lawyer comes, send him right in.
Now, try to remember something that might help me defend you, Johnny.
Joe, I just can't think anymore. My head's going around like a pinwheel.
You've got to keep yourself under control. Now, you're an investigator. You're used to dealing with things like this. Certainly when it comes to your own life.
Yeah, that's just it. When it comes to my own life, I'm tied up in knots.
I see. Well, I'll be frank. It'll be a rough one.
Are they still holding Unger?
They couldn't hold him. They had no charge against him.
Uh-huh. And it looks like the indictment will go through, huh?
Yeah, it looks like it. You were terribly drunk, Johnny. Dr. Norwich told me the percentage of alcohol in your blood.
You think I killed her, don't you?
Now, look, Johnny, I'm trying
to
help you.
Forget it, Joe. I'll see you in court.
Excuse me, would you mind moving over one? Oh, there. Oh, sorry. Just got here.
Hear ye. This Honorable Court of Connecticut is now in session pursuant to adjournment. Judge Samuel B. Epstein presiding. Be seated. The State of Connecticut versus John Dollar.
We'll waive a jury, Johnny. I think you'll have a better chance.
We'll take a jury, Joe. Start picking.
Your name, please?
David W. Norwich.
You're a physician, is that correct?
Physician and surgeon.
Now, Dr. Norwich, did the defendant, Mr. Dollar, make a visit to you on the night of July 10th last?
He did.
Would you mind explaining the circumstances of that visit to the jury, Doctor?
He was very sick. I had to help him inside. He was so sick. A laboratory analysis of his blood showed him to be under the influence of alcohol.
Did the defendant, or did he not show you a spot on his arm where a hypodermic needle had penetrated?
He did.
And did you or did you not suggest to him at that time that the alcohol might have been administered by means of a hypodermic needle?
I did. But also...
That'll be all, Doctor.
Not quite all, Doctor. Now, Doctor, you know as well as I do that a little black dot on the underside of the elbow might have been done by an enterprising young investigator such as Mr. Dollar in order to put forth a fairy tale that he was drugged, do you not?
I object, Your Honor. The prosecuting attorney is attempting to intimidate the witness and interject his own opinions through the medium of his questions.
Sustained.
Very well. Doctor, is there any possible way of showing through laboratory tests of one sort or another whether alcohol had been administered by hypodermic or by mouth?
Yes, there is. Gastric analysis.
And did you perform such a test upon the defendant, Mr. Dollar, at the time of his visit to you, July 10 last?
I did.
Could you tell the jury what you found, please?
I found a trace of alcohol.
That will be all, Doctor. Thank you. Your name, please?
Rochelle Happerston.
You know her, Johnny?
Happerston, where do you live?
1024 and a half Pitkin Street, East Hartford.
What relationship did you have to the murdered girl, Miss Kennedy?
I was her roommate.
How long had you roomed with Miss Kennedy?
Oh, about 3 years.
Now, Miss Happerston, did the defendant, Mr. Dollar, ever call on Miss Kennedy?
Well, not for the last 2 years.
But prior to 2 years ago, he did call at her place of residence. Is that not correct?
2 years ago, yes.
Yeah,
Now, is
that's
it not true that Miss Kennedy and Mr. Dollar were about to be married?
Yes, that's true, but that was 2 years ago, too, so far as I know.
Just answer the questions, Miss Happerston.
Well, you want the truth, don't you?
We'll get the truth, Miss Happerston. Now, were you present when Miss Kennedy received the wire from Mr. Dollar requesting her to meet him at his apartment at 7:30 the night of July 10 last?
Yes, I was.
And what do you remember to be her reaction?
Hand me that page.
Well, she was very confused. She said she didn't love him, and she was hoping he wouldn't ask her to start again.
And she went to Mr. Dollar's apartment under the impression that there was a chance that he might ask her to get together again?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness cannot know what went on in the mind of the deceased.
Sustained. Strike the previous question from the record. Proceed.
In your opinion, let me put it this way. Did Miss Kennedy not say to you, only a day before the time that she left for Mr. Dollar's apartment, that she was not in love with Dollar and that she hoped he would not ask her to marry him?
Yes, she did.
That will be all, Miss Happerston. Your name, please.
Javier Sawyer.
Would you state your occupation?
I'm a lieutenant, Homicide Bureau, Hartford Police Department.
Lieutenant Sawyer, you were in charge of the Kennedy case, were you not?
Yes, I was.
You examined Mr. Dollar's apartment following the crime?
I did.
Did you find empty bottles of whiskey in the apartment?
I did.
How many?
4.
And where were the bottles placed?
I only saw 3.
Well, one was adjacent to the body, 2 were in one corner of the living room, and 1 was in the kitchen.
Now, is it possible that one or more of those bottles might have been consumed previous to the night of July 10th, the night that Eileen Kennedy was killed?
No, sir.
Why do you say that, Lieutenant?
Well, there were a few drops of liquor in every one of the 4 bottles. Had the liquor been consumed previous to that night, these drops would have evaporated by the time we got there.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Your witness, Mr. Harris.
No questions. Looks bad, Johnny.
4 bottles. I only saw 3.
Maybe a plea of guilty.
A hypodermic?
What'd you say?
Joe, I've been in a fog. Put me on the stand.
I'd advise against it,
Put me on the stand, Joe.
Your name?
Johnny Dollar.
Where do you live?
390 Pearl Street, Hartford.
Now, I'm going to point out to your attorney that you don't have to testify. You're aware of that.
I am.
Now, did you kill Eileen Kennedy?
I did not, and I can prove it.
Please. Ladies and gentlemen.
Please continue, Mr. Dollar.
Now, there were 4 empty liquor bottles found in my apartment the night Eileen Kennedy was killed. Get that? 4 bottles. 1 near the body, 2 in the corner, and the police say they found 1 in the kitchen. All empty. Lieutenant Sawyer testified that by examining the degree of evaporation in the bottles of the residual whiskey, those bottles had been emptied the night of July 10th and not before.
Go on.
The medical examiners proved that Miss Kennedy did not have a high percentage of alcohol in her blood. She could not then have consumed as much as a pint of liquor, and the police say even that much is doubtful. Now, that means, ladies and gentlemen, that the night of July 10th, I would have had to consume over 3.5 quarts of whiskey. I've got to admit that I would have been unconscious long before I reached that point.
Order. Proceed, Mr. Dollar.
Now, as for the hypodermic needle, assuming I were about to go under from an overdose of alcohol, is it likely that I, who have had no practice at the administration of hypodermics, would have used my left hand to administer a hypodermic to myself and be accurate enough to hit the vein so exactly? Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one man who had a motive to kill Eileen Kennedy. That motive was to get me, something he'd been threatening to do for 5 years. And that's the man, the next witness, the elevator boy in my building, saw come up to my apartment the night of Eileen Kennedy's murder. That man is here in this courtroom. His name is Henry J. Unger. Look out, he's making a break for it. Stop him, Pete. We got him.
You did it, Johnny, you did it.
So the case of the state versus Johnny Dollar became the case of the state versus Henry Unger. Furdy's confession under fire isn't going to help Unger any. You might sum up my whole case in one sentence. Alcohol and murder don't mix. But I'm not kidding myself. If Unger hadn't got panicky at the mention of the next witness, I might have gotten what he deserved. Just shows what a little nerve, some fast bluff, and somebody else's sense of guilt will do for you. You see, there is no elevator in my building. Expense account total, $50.39, and more worry than you've got stockholders. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, to make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. There's lots of cooling, real mint flavor in every stick. And chewing Wrigley's Spearmint helps keep you feeling fresh and alert. You feel better, work better, get more fun out of doing things. So indoors, outdoors, wherever you go, keep some healthful, refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Lou Krugman, Gene Bates, Raymond Burr, Sidney Miller, Mary Shipp, Parley Bear, Herb Butterfield, and Bill Conrad. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you've enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum every day. We invite you to join us again next week at the same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I've got to say, it is very rare that I'll have this amount of conflicting feelings about an episode. There were several things I loved about this episode. And then there were some things that kind of make me go, huh. The things that I love, first of all, Raymond Burr playing a major heavy role, that's always a bit of a highlight. It's also interesting, this is really the first episode that's kind of taken a look at Johnny Dollar as having a private life. In most of the private detectives, the private life is rarely discussed, but here the mystery gets really personal. On the other hand, I had a lot of plausibility problems in this episode. The big thing, I think, was the beginning. I just could not believe that Johnny let them get the drop on him, because he should have suspected something with the ex-fiancée there, with no explanation, and the fact that Unger was gunning for him. Answering the door without a gun seems somewhat implausible. Plus the fact that when Johnny Dollar took the witness stand, he basically did so to become his own attorney. Probably would have worked better to have him represent himself pro se, though probably would not be reasonable to believe an insurance investigator would do that. What we had going on in the courtroom didn't make sense either. But if you get, besides the beginning and the end, the middle has a lot of great acting from Edmund O'Brien and some interesting character exploration. All right, briefly, a comment regarding last week's show. I had a couple folks who had some problems with the video theater episode and with the Let George Do It episode. The four-sided triangle, wrong file got attached. We fixed that, so if you had that problem, you can just go to greatdetectives.net or to the iTunes store and download the corrected episode. Well, that'll do it for us for today. We'll be back on Monday with the series finale of Box 13. In the meantime, send your comments into box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And remember, every month to please cast your vote for the show, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.